Welcome back to another episode of River Academy. Shout out to the family. Shout out to, of course, all my students in the academy. Today I'm here with another episode. Shout out to Pick a Side, Joel Morant show, the Fantasy Reaction show. Shout out to everything that's just big in the sports world. We had a crazy weekend, USA. We won gold again, not a shocker. Steph had some magical moments, but before I start to chop it up and talk to you guys about what's going on, got a couple topics here, but I got some friendly guys that I know personally that I want to bring up here. So let's bring them up here, man. Carson, Bieber, and Mr. Logan from the Nerd Sesh, my brothers in Christ. How you doing?
Fantastic, man. It is a delight to be here. It's a delight to see you again. You were shouting out the Joel Morant show. We were on with Joel earlier this week. So we're making the pick a side rounds, baby, and we could not be happier to be doing it.
Yeah, I'm excellent. Thank you for having us, Riv. Carson just had to wear a blue shirt because I have one on, bro. He had to steal my swag.
That happens all the time. No, but blue is my color. I'm the one who's always wearing blue.
He invented blue. He invented blue, actually.
Okay.
Kind of.
Yeah, no, I seen you guys on the Joel Morant show. What you guys were talking about?
Bullshit. I don't even remember. No, we talked about a bunch of stuff. We went through like our top 10 point guards list. We talked about NFL contenders we're worried about. We talked about Ayuk rumors. So yeah.
Funny story. Joel is a known John Morant hater. So last year he had Jamal Murray in the top 5 talks ahead of John Morant. Now he's trying to put Hallie over John Morant. I just find it funny that he finds a new guy. Fox too, of course. Where'd you guys have John Morant on your little top 10 point guard list?
You're not going to like this. I do think that Hallie is over Ja. I don't think that Jamal Murray belongs over him because I do think that there's just a clear difference there in terms of Jamal can excel as a number 2 alongside an offensive force like Jokic. Like, obviously, the pure shot making is unreal, but there's just a volatility with him. There's a lack of that high-end playmaking. There's a lack of the rim pressure that makes him less consistent, makes him less equipped to be a number 1 than a Ja, than a Hallie, than a Fox, than any of the dudes who are above him. However, I think that Hallie is a really underrated at this point offensive genius. I mean, he just turned out one of the best offenses, regular season and postseason, that we've seen without great personnel. Like, obviously, they have a lot of dudes who can space the floor. They have a lot of athletes who can run the floor. I think that their entire offensive identity, right, their willingness to push and tempo, it's all conducive to really good offense. But the number of advantages that Hallie creates that don't always show up on the stat sheet, to me, are underrated. The fact that he is just such a perfect decision maker. Like, he is basically always going to get a great shot for himself as one of the best pull-up shooters we've seen, some of the best touch that we've seen in the lane, or he's going to create a great, even better shot for his teammate. And even if that's not with an assist, it's with a skip pass that gets the defense in rotation, and then another guy attacks the closeout and kicks out, or swings it to a guy in the corner or on the wing. Like, he racks up so many of those hockey assists. He's, to me, the best hit-ahead passer in basketball. He's a top 3 overall passer and an extremely efficient scorer. So I just think Ja hasn't had as good of offensive personnel alongside him as Hallie does. But I also think that the fact that the Grizzlies have been consistently like a 20th, 25th percentile half-court offense does speak to the fact that, like, Ja isn't as great a decision maker as Hallie. He doesn't have that sort of pull-up shooting that you can bank on reliably. And so sometimes, even though Ja is incredible to watch, obviously, like, you do get these really rough, inefficient performances, and he doesn't necessarily maximize team offense like Hallie does. So I think Hallie's great. I had Hallie as my number 5 point guard, I think, after Brunson. And I think that top 4 is pretty clear. I think Hallie's that next guy. I'm very high on him.
Okay. Logan, talk to me. Save me, please. Save me.
I can, unfortunately. You might facepalm too. I had Hallie at number 5 as well. And I think me and Carson had Ja at 9 and 10 respectively. I just think that Hallie's one of the most unselfish point guards I've ever seen, one of the most unselfish players I've ever seen. I think he's brilliant decision-making. He's so consistent there. And a big key to that is what Carson was talking about. The Grizzlies are a great basketball team. I think we do this attribution error with quarterbacks in the NFL where the team success goes immediately to the quarterback no matter what. Mm-hmm. And we kind of do this same thing with Ja where we want to give all the Grizzlies team success to Ja because he's the face of the franchise. And Ja's great. I think Ja's a great point guard. He's really He's really fun to watch. He's one of the most athletic point guards I've ever seen. But the Grizzlies are a great basketball team because of their defensive foundation, not because of their great offense. The Pacers, on the other hand, are a great team because of their great offense, and it's directly correlated because of Haliburton. And I just think there's a consistent floor that Hallie gives you night to night, game to game, play to play that I just don't get with Ja. And I don't want to take anything away from him. He's one of my most fun players to watch. I love watching Ja. He's so much fun. But yeah, I do think there's a little bit of a gap between Hallie and Ja.
Oh, the gap is just I expected better from you too. That's what I'm gonna say here.
All right, let me ask you this, Riv. How do you view Ja versus a Trey?
You know what? Okay, so we when we were having the conversation, I had Haliburton, if I remember correctly, I had him in my 6'7" range. I think he was right in the 6'7" range. The difference I thought with me is just like I get the half court offense stuff. I do get it. Like it's like the Grizzlies offensively, they struggle. I know John Morant, it's a little bit easier because of the jump shot to really defend if you do have the right, personnel. I think what swayed it for me was in the playoffs, the moments we have seen from John Morant is that if he is hitting the jump shot, he's probably like the most unstoppable player on the court. Like there is just nothing you can really do. And he's not. I don't think there's a gap in playmaking between Hallie. I do think Hallie's a better playmaker, and Ja's probably in that next tier up of just being a high level playmaker. I think the difference is for me, like between Ja and you said, what'd you say?
Trey Young.
Trey Young isn't really efficient from anywhere, unfortunately. That's the killer offensively. Like outside the floater, I think the 3-point shot you expected to be a little bit more efficient to a degree. With John Morant, it's just the amount of pressure he can put on the rim for a point guard, the way he can just destroy a pick and roll defense, the way he can get there. His transition offense is amazing. I don't think there's a gap between him and Trey Young. I don't think there's a gap between Trey Young and Hallie. And I don't think there's a gap between John Morant and Hallie. I think just Hallie's efficiency, I understand why you lead that way. He is one of the most efficient players. But it's just in terms of one-on-one basketball, like isolation, I value those two guys a little bit better than Hallie. He does struggle in that type of department. But personally, I don't think there's a gap, like all hating aside, because I do have a hate train with Haliburton. I do have that. I don't think there's a gap between like SGA, Luka, Steph, Brunson, and then there's like those guys. I don't think there's a big gap.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. There's not a big gap all the way from like 5 to 10 probably. But the reason that I ask about Trey versus Ja is that I think in terms of not the specifics of their play style, but sort of like the fundamental play style and their value to an offense is more similar than people tend to like to admit, because Ja is just way more fun to watch than Trey. But ultimately, like, these are super ball dominant, heliocentric offensive engines, right? Which is a big difference. Hallie is so selfless. The ball is constantly moving in a Haliburton offense. He's relocating. He's such a great shooter away from the ball. That's not a value that either Trey or Ja tap into whatsoever. And then Trey has manufactured like significantly better team offenses than Ja. Without better personnel alongside him. Yeah, there's just an ability that he has to be so surgical out of pick and roll. And you mentioned the efficiency in terms of like pure shot making. That is true about Trey, that he hasn't been like very efficient in terms of his field goal percentage ever. But because he does rack up free throws, like that helps his efficiency. It's not great, but Ja's isn't great either. And in the playoffs, like Ja's a couple points below league average in terms of true shooting. So I think that both those guys have their limitations that make me prefer a Hallie to them, because I think the ceiling with Hallie alongside other good players, because he does so many complementary things, like that is just an extremely high ceiling that you get with Hallie. But if I'm picking between the two ball dominant dudes who aren't always the most efficient, I do think I prefer Trey because of the playmaking, because I think the control of the game is a little bit more impressive. And the jump shooting can be volatile for both of them, but it's definitely more of a strength for Trey.
I do want to give – I think you make a good point, though, Riv, about Ja's jump shooting. I think there's definitely a level where Ja can raise himself and elevate in these conversations if the jumper does become more consistent. Because you do make a great point. Like against the Lakers, right, when he drops that 40-piece, when he is just raining threes on threes, when you can do that, when you take Ja's unparalleled athleticism and rim pressure, because it's really rare, any kind of point guard that can get to the rack like that. If that jumper does get better and substantially improve and the intermediate game comes with it, I always think there's going to be a little bit of a playmaking and cerebralness gap between like Ja and Haliburton. But if the jumper comes along, then that's a completely different conversation where I think we can look and go, damn, maybe Ja really is a top 5. Where do you have him on your point guards list? What's that? I like that grin. What are you cooking up?
No, yeah, I'm gonna answer that, but I would say like there are 3 different like Hallie's off ball playmaking is great. Like his like there are 3 literally different type of point guards. Like Trey is an on ball 3-point shooting merchant, and then Ja's like this rim pressure playmaking demon, and then Hallie's like this off ball efficient god. So it's like they're really just 3 different point guards. I understand in leading the Hallie route, this is the year they just led the best offense in the league. I get that. If you bank on that to consistently happen, I'm all for it. Trae Young has done it probably about 5-6 times leading a top 10 offense in his career, 4 or 5 times in a sense. I had Ja really high, man. I'm not gonna sit here and cap. It's biased. I had him at like 4. Like I had him
above Brunson.
Yeah, but I was basing. See, here's the thing. Like Ja was in my top 4 last summer, and I don't like to move a guy because he got hurt, but he really got suspended, and then he got hurt. So I didn't want to really nothing in his game changed to where I could move him so far down. It's just about guys improving. So, and I do believe it was a little bit of projecting, but I believe in Ja getting the intermediate game, working on the pull up. Because he's, if I'm not mistaken, from the mid range, he's efficient. He just doesn't take enough to qualify as efficient. He doesn't take enough mid range shooting, mid range jump shots and shit. But yeah, I'm really high on Ja. He's 4 for me. I think I had Brunson at 5. Because Brunson,
I feel like
Brunson's a different type of dude. He's a scoring machine, but the playmaking is very, I don't want to say regular, but it's not. I don't think it's at the level of these 3 guys, personally.
No, it's not. But I think that as a scorer, he's levels above those guys. And that to me is where his ability to be a floor raiser is just exceptional. You think about the supporting personnel that the Knicks had offensively, they were a 95th percentile offense with Brunson on the floor. They were 15 points better with him on it than off it. And that is with a ridiculous burden on him as a creator. Because even though he is just a solid playmaker, I would agree, he can still rack up his 7 assists a night because he demands so much attention. So the shot quality that he creates for his teammates doesn't necessarily require some of the great playmaking that we might see from a Ja, just because it's the demand that these defenses have guarding Brunson at all times is so crazy. So I do think that Brunson, and just the shot making, man, I mean, the ability to kill you from everywhere on the floor, that's so valuable in the playoffs. So I would definitely have him above Ja, but it's going to be fun to see what the Grizzlies look like this year. I mean, this should be their best team. They'll miss Steven Adams, but Bane is the best.
Edey's will come in and eat.
I'm excited for Edey. I'm excited for Edey.
I just look like I remember that Warriors series so vividly, man, and just having Wiggins on him and then Draymond in the backside, and he's still pouring in 40 points, 38, 14 straight in the 4th, 3 ball after 3 ball. I'm just this dude is God, bro. What are we gonna do to stop him? But yeah, Brunson different. Where'd you have Steph, man? Carson, please. Where'd
3.
You have? Oh, we're here.
Yeah. No, I don't.
Joel was tripping, man. Joel was actually tripping with that take. I
tried to tell you guys, man. He's a crazy guy, man.
Yeah, I think if you're all about floor raising, then I can see the Brunson case just because he eats up that volume on ball. But if I'm trying to lead a championship offense, it's Steph every day of the week, dude. I mean, Steph may have regressed a bit, but to act like he is still not one of the handful of most valuable offensive players on the planet, to me, is just wrong. The Warriors were better than an 80th percentile offense with him on the floor this year. And he was still one of the 3 most efficient volume scoring point guards in the league, just behind Luka and SGA. And think about the Warriors personnel this year. He still stresses the defense in a way that nobody else does. I think he's for sure top 3 still.
I'm glad you said that, man. Let's get on to the show, man. Let's lock in. So, we had a crazy weekend. I know we're all American on here, so we're ecstatic. We just won another gold medal. We're kind of kicking ass over there at the Olympics. So just give me your thoughts, man. Steph Curry, I know he's going to get talked about a ton. LeBron James win MVP. Do you think he deserves it? Does Steph deserve it? How did you feel about Steph's game? Just run me through the whole last 2 games. Victor, Steph, LeBron, AD, Tatum not playing. Just give me your thoughts, man.
On the MVP question, I think that it's an interesting debate. I would have given it to Steph. And the reason I would have given it to Steph is that even though he sucked throughout the group stage, and LeBron and KD were easily the 2 most consistent players for Team USA throughout this run. And I think LeBron, when you consider the playmaking value, the consistent scoring, just the all-around impact that we know he's always going to excel in, like over the course of the tournament, he was the best player for Team USA. But there were really only 2 games that mattered for Team USA because they were never in danger of losing in the group stage. They were not in any danger of losing to Brazil. So when it comes down to the 2 games that actually mattered, that being the semis and the finals against Serbia and France, Steph was easily the best player on the team. He was easily the best player on the floor for Team USA. He gives you 60 points over those 2 games, 17 threes, and at every pivotal moment, like first half, when the offense is stagnant for Team USA, when they can't get a stop, it's Steph with the barrage of threes that keeps them in it. He still makes some big plays in the second half of that game, but obviously the 4 threes in 2 minutes and 11 seconds in the final against France, like that was the best 2-game stretch I've ever seen from a Team USA player. It was easily the best 2-game offensive stretch that I've ever seen, like not even close. So clearly LeBron was more consistent, but when it came to those high stakes moments, those high stakes games where their backs were actually against the wall, where it actually mattered how they performed, Steph was clearly the most valuable player. So because of that, I would have leaned him. I'm not mad that LeBron got it, but I would have gone Steph.
Yeah, I would have gone Steph too. I completely agree. I mean, like Carson said, the rest of the games were effectively meaningless. Like USA was going to run no matter who we had on the floor. And we needed Steph. Like you can feel it in all of those moments. Like, and then the heroics, dude. The fact that with 2 guys on him, like he just pulls up. Everybody on Team USA knows Steph is red hot. Let's get him the rock. He's going to lead us to victory. Like in all the big moments in those 2 games, Steph was the guy that stepped up. In other storylines, I thought the most over-criticized guy for Team USA was Steve Kerr. I thought he did a really good job for the most part with rotations. Now, there were parts I didn't like the fact where we would have like short stretches of lineups. It's really hard for guys to get a rhythm consistently, but I thought for the most part, like taking Ant out when Ant's jumper is not hitting and he's not really contributing to the team aspects, I thought that was smart. I thought taking Tatum out for the same reasons, his jumper's not hitting, was a good decision. And the biggest one to me was pulling Embiid in the final game against France and opting to go with Anthony Davis. I thought that was the best decision he could have made. Embiid's just – he has his flaws, and I think AD's such a better matchup against Wemby. Now, Wemby still had some big putbacks and still ate. Wemby's going to have that impact no matter who he's up against. But Anthony Davis is just so much more well-equipped to deal with him defensively. Embiid from the jump, man, just looked – a little slow, a little uncoordinated. He tends to look like that sometimes. And I thought he just overblown, man. I think people were kind of bored during the Olympics and just wanted something to moan about. And Steve kind of took the brunt of that. We won out, dude. Like, what are you guys mad about? Steve handled business and we got the chip. I will admit, it was a little more sweaty than I would have liked it to be. I would have liked us to have handled Serbia and France a little more, a little better, but I thought Steve caught the brunt of a lot of flack and shouldn't have, man. We won gold. We handled business. That's what we came to do, and we handled it. So I thought Steve Kerr just caught a lot of flack for coaching a pretty good Olympics.
Steve Kerr is apparently retiring from the Olympics. He's apparently going to give up his spot. So, Steve Kerr definitely – the problem with Steve Kerr, and this goes even to Golden State, is sometimes he lives or dies with lineups that clearly shouldn't work. Sometimes he goes a little bit too small, should be playing guys he shouldn't play. And, I'm going to ask you guys about the Tatum situation. But the Tatum situation kind of reminds me of, and Carson, you know this, the Moses and Moody situation kind of in a little smaller scale where it's like, dude, Moses and Moody kind of like, I'm a lottery pick. I need some run. When are you going to play me? When I do play, I play well. Tatum is kind of like, I just want a ring. I made All-NBA first team. What's up? Like, are you going to, give me some run? I get a little run here, then I don't play. So it's like, what do you guys think about the Tatum situation? Like, was he writing that? Should Tatum have not gotten burned? Like, what's your thoughts?
I think that Tatum probably could have played a little bit more than he did. However, I'm not like outraged about it just because when Tatum did play, it was kind of rough. I mean, the stat is that throughout all of the Olympic play, I think including exhibitions, but he was 0 of 16 on jumpers. Like the jumper was completely off for him as it was throughout the playoff run. So I think that there were more minutes to be found for him. The thing that was just most baffling to me about Kerr throughout the Olympics was sticking with that 3-guard starting lineup until the final. And that's where I do want to give him praise because he did the right thing, right? Going with the Steph, Book, KD, LeBron, Embiid starting 5, and then closing with AD at the center instead of Embiid. Like, I thought that he found the best lineups when it mattered most, but it did take him a while to get there. And it's just this team has more front court talent than backcourt talent. Like, you have KD, you have AD, you have LeBron, you have Tatum, you have Bam, who was playing so well. I don't think that Drew Holiday, as great as he is at the little things, needed to be starting for as long as he was. KD should have been starting. But Tatum, I think, should have gotten some more of those backup forward minutes, especially when you think about like the Serbia game and how the U.S. was particularly struggling to defend at a high level in that game. They were struggling to end possessions defensively on the glass. And I understand concerns about playing Tatum when he's off offensively and he's not knocking down his shots. And maybe you worry about him taking the offense a bit out of rhythm. But I think that the DNP was probably not necessary. But I feel like it's kind of overblown as a story. Like, I don't think that Jason Tatum, with the level that he was playing at when he was on the floor, was necessarily like going to make the margins all that much more convincing. I definitely don't think that he ever deserved to like start for this team. So he could have played more, but I don't think it was the end of the world that he didn't play that much.
Yeah, he should have definitely played against Serbia. That was definitely the game.
That was exactly what I was going to say. I completely agree on the Serbia point. I felt like we could have deployed him at any given moment throughout that game just because a lot of things Carson mentioned, struggling to end possessions. We couldn't grab a freaking board, man. I don't know what was up with Embiid, dude. Bro, turn your head. Look at the basket. Look at where the ball is. Like,
yeah.
Oh, man, my blood was boiling at the end of that game, dude, because I was stressing, man. I think I might have cried if we lost.
No, we were down. We was down early. I was like, yo, what is going on? I'm like, there's no way we're about to lose in the semifinals, bro.
And the athleticism gap between like us and Serbia, I just think that was a matchup where Tatum really could have been effective, not being out of position on wide open threes. Like, Serbia goes cold in the second half. We got lucky, but Tatum could have, I felt, made some plays there, could have ended some possessions. Those are the things that Tatum excels at, right? Like, the jumper has been off since the playoffs, and I was a huge Tatum hater, and I had to pull back. I'm going to be honest, guys. I had to pull back. The conversations on Twitter were getting way too out of hand. I could not hang. Like, he has his issues scoring the basketball, and I have been adamant about those shortcomings and about those flaws, but everybody just wanted to take it way too far. Tatum's arguably the best defensive wing in basketball. He's one of the best rebounding wings in all of basketball. He's a good playmaker, a good decision maker. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. Some of those things made me rethink the top 10 small forwards list that Carson and I did earlier in the year. I had Tatum above KD. I had Tatum above Bron. And even now I am rethinking both of those rankings with Tatum scoring limitations. But yeah, I had to pull back on some of those conversations. I think people, because of how loaded the Celtics are, because of Tatum being a cornball, I thought we might have a "we did it" moment on the Olympic stage from Tatum if he played. For that, I'm thankful that we didn't. But I think people like to use Tatum as a bit of a punching bag, and I think some of those conversations have been overblown a bit. But there were certain matchups. I'm fine. We ended up with the gold. Tatum's jumper wasn't hitting. KD's is. LeBron was playing out of his ass. Like, you're going to play your best players, and ultimately Tatum wasn't one of those best guys. So it wasn't that big deal. But this extended stretch of him struggling offensively from the playoffs to the Olympics has definitely made me rethink some of my rankings on the small forward spot, or excuse me, power forward spot.
Yeah, he was he got into the game, and if you notice, he started bobbling the ball, couldn't really dribble, and it was just like, what's going on offensively? Like, what's happening to Jason? Are you declining in front of my eyes, bro? Like, what is going
It's
on?
the Dell's regression, man. It's the Dell's regression.
I don't know what was going on with him, but who do you guys think is potentials for 2028? Because Steph, Kevin Durant, LeBron,
Right.
it feels like they're doing their last hoorah.
It's 12 spots, right? It's 12 total.
I thought it was like 14. I'll be honest. It feels like it's mad dudes on the team.
I can't do math or read. They're gonna send me back to remedial classes. So
I think it's 12.
I heard Joel Embiid is gonna be playing for Cameroon in 2028.
That was crazy, bro. Well, did he say that? I saw him say that he was considering it.
Yeah, I saw that. So I'm gonna just take it as a maybe, which would be dope. Winning. I don't know why he didn't do that.
Bro,
it's not free agency, bro. I don't know. Like, it's your nationality. Like, you got to commit to a country. I feel like bro is mulling his options. He's got 3 options, and he's like, okay, now that I've won my ring, I'm doing like my hometown phase.
Would he have any NBA talent on that roster?
I think he just wants to go there and kill and like just be the only guy.
And they have Koloko.
Did Siakam play this year?
Well, they didn't make.
I don't think he did. And Abuya, I think Abuya was on the Bulls on the bench. So
they definitely did not make it. Maybe they make it.
I feel like any team with Siakam and Embiid should be able to make the Olympic field.
We thought that, but then Canada didn't make the tournament.
That was bad. That's true.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like the bar to get into the Olympics at all. I mean, think about the roster that Giannis dragged to the quarterfinals. Like, that Greece team is.
Hey, man, don't disrespect Nick Calathes like that, bro.
I don't want to. Kostas Papanikolaou.
What?
The Greek dudes. These are the dudes. Exactly. These are the dudes that Giannis is playing with.
So, who you guys think was going to be on the 2028 team?
We could do a little draft. Hallie's a lock, right?
Yes.
Is he going to play?
Yeah, dude, he had fun and he didn't even play this year.
He's one. I hate him so much. Oh God, oh my God.
Real quick. Before, can you explain to me, like, what as a Haliburton hater, what
I'll tell you exactly. No,
what does it stem from the most?
I'll tell you exactly the day this happened. The day this was literally in November, October. The day they posted that graphic of him versus 2016 Steph in November was the day when I said, I'm a hater. That was the moment where I'm like, he's done. I will hate him forever.
So it's a Steph defense instinct.
Yeah, anytime you compare a dude too soon to Steph, and then he starts playing like shit, whether he's injured or not, automatically makes me a hater. So
Are you a Dame hater?
Yes.
Because that's like the number one. Are you a Harden hater? I'm thinking about all this Steph. All right. So you're consistent with that. Did you not find it funny though when he tweeted out the picture of him with the gold medal, and it was like when you get an A on.
No, that's the shit I do. Like I love that he's embracing his I'm not playing, but I'm here.
Yeah, dude, that's I thought that was good self-awareness because Tatum could never do that, bro. Tatum's mommy's complaining to Steve,
because Hallie knows he's gonna be here again. I'll be back. This is like his second time. He lost to FIBA, got dropped.
Yeah,
was there for that. Loved every bit of that part. And then now he's here. 2024, he got his gold medal. Harden hate stems from me and Joel though. That's just Harden versus Steph. That hate runs deep, and I ended up winning because Harden has 0 rings. So
that was never.
Yeah, we went. And then Dame that year when Steph missed a year, and they just thought Dame was the best in the league.
Crazy.
Yeah, idiots.
Nobody has been prematurely challenged more for their spot as the top point guard specifically in the league than Steph. It's crazy.
It'd be dudes that don't even deserve it. I get the Luka stuff. Luka was challenging it. SGA, okay, cool. 30 in the season, but you doing these dudes they can't beat Steph. It's weird to me. Dame
was always the craziest because every 3 years they would just decide that Dame was on Steph's level or better than Steph based on what.
It's remarkable, man. But
yeah. I think Hallie should probably be the starting point guard unless somebody else emerges. I'm thinking.
Ooh,
I was thinking about Cade. If Cade emerges, he's too far away to say right now, I think. But I love Cade.
Carson.
I know. I'm just saying we need to see some growth. Here's why I think Hallie is such a perfect fit. And this is something that you see with the fact that maybe Tatum wasn't the most perfect fit with the starting five, right? I think due to our versatile offensive players who are selfless offensive players, like Katie was so exceptional for a number of reasons, but part of it is just the ability to so reliably knock down those catch and shoot jumpers. Same with Book, right? Obviously, same goes for Steph. And I think that's where Hallie is the best suited point guard, because all the other options, at least at this point, right? If it is Ja, if it is Brunson, if it is Trey, all of the dudes who are still going to be reasonably in their primes in the next 4 years, like they all just require having the ball in their hands so much more. Hallie to me is such a ceiling raiser. He's so conducive to only getting better when you put good guys around him. Like, I just think he's perfect. It's like how Book, right? The fact that he can curl around a screen and he can hit any jumper, that he's constantly cutting. Like, dudes who have that sort of versatile offensive impact, I think always deserve priority with Team USA, because you're not going to have the ball in your hands for 30 minutes of a game.
So we can put Hallie at the starter.
Let's do it.
Booker Ant is probably gonna.
I agree.
Yeah,
they could be the 2-3.
I agree.
Tatum's probably at the 3.
I think
it's J-Dub, right?
Tatum might be at the 4.
Wait, you're thinking J-Dub starts?
No, J-Dub's gonna be
Book
the backup.
and Ant. I'm saying Book and Ant might.
I'm with you, Riv. I think it goes
Jaylen Brown.
Oh, JB, yeah. JB could be here too for
over
sure.
Who though? Oh, are we talking starters still? He's not starting over Book or Ant.
I don't mind bringing one of them off the bench.
Yeah.
Book could be 30.
But Book is such an easy fit. I mean, think about everything. The Book was clearly the 4th best player in these Olympics.
I think in 4 years, I think Ant's going to be like top 10, you know?
I'm not saying I think Ant is going to be a lock. I think Ant could be the best player on this team.
You're saying go with a little small ball lineup and run Tatum at the 4?
I'm just saying, yeah, Book over JB because he's a significantly better offensive player, and defensively he buys in these environments. I think you go Tatum at the 4, and I think it's going to be Chet at the 5. Chet is going to be insane in 4 years. Well, one of the two, but yes, I think that Chet is going to reach an offensive ceiling that Bam just cannot. I think once it all comes together, he's already, bro, like an 80th percentile pick and roll creator when they let him do it. Like he's going to be a 40% 3-point shooter who's also like a super efficient lob threat, can handle, can play make, and is going to be one of the 3 best defenders on the planet, probably. I think he just has a higher ceiling than Bam. But Bam's got to get big minutes. Or we could go a big lineup and go Tatum at the 3, Bam and Chet starting.
So then who starts at the 2? Book or Ant?
I think
Ant. I think Ant will be better at that stage.
So we got that. So we got Hallie, we got Ant, we got Tatum, we got Bam, Chet.
We got.
I think I prefer the smaller lineup with Book starting over Bam, but they could go either way.
Hallie,
play
Book,
it matchup
Ant,
dependent.
Yeah, Hallie, Book, Ant, Tatum, Chet, and then off the bench we got Bam, we got JB, we got
Paolo's got to be here, right?
Paolo
at 3. We need some buckets. Cade.
I think Cade will be there. I think even though Donovan Mitchell might not be the easiest fit, I think he's too talented. He'll be too talented.
It's tough.
Maxey
is who I was
there. I think AD said he'll be back. We need some backs. And we need two Drew Holiday, Derek White type dudes. You know, we need those guys.
Yeah. J-Dub could kind of be that guy.
I think J-Dub's going to be way better in 4 years too, man.
Yeah, I like J-Dub on. I mean, I think like a Trey is not going to make the team. There's just not enough room
Keegan
for
Murray
him to do his thing. That's crazy.
Dude, Keegan's a beast, bro. I like
Keegan. We need a plug-in.
I mean, I guess it's not that crazy. Derek White was on the team. What about there's one name who we haven't mentioned who I feel like is going to be a good enough player to be here. I think Evan Mobley. I think Evan Mobley's taking up one of those big spots.
Definitely.
But then we have 3 bigs off the bench? 4?
Bam, it would be AD, Mobley, Bam, Chet. I think that's our true big rotation.
I like that.
4 bigs. I think that's good. And
we need some guards.
We need another guard for sure. We need another bucket. Is it Mitchell?
Yeah, let's get Mitchell and Maxey on. Well, I think we can have them both.
They only had 2 6'3" guards.
Let's see how many guys we got right now. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Those would be our 2
guys. I hate to break it to you. I think we're supposed to have 12. We got 14 right now.
I don't think we can have Hallie, Maxey, and Donovan Mitchell.
Who would your guys' cuts be? Damn, I think we got to cut 2 guys.
It'll probably be one big, one guard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mobley's not the hardest cut in the world. Although we don't know what 34-year-old AD will look like. He might not be like that anymore. We'll cut AD. I love it. Ruthless.
And
And
we have to cut down. I don't think they'll give Donovan Mitchell a run. Honestly, I don't think they'll give him a no.
It's Mitchell or Maxey, I feel, or Cade, one of those guys. But I think
Cade
Cade
is not getting
so
cut.
much better next. I think he's gonna be better in 2020.
yeah, wait until you see Olympic defense Cade in 2028. He's going to be locked in. He can bring a different value than those guys because I think he'll be a legit plus defender.
I mean,
So
what is Maxey gonna look like in 4 years compared to Donovan?
I think Maxey's kind of an easier fit
I
because he's
agree.
such a
Yeah,
willing
I
catch
agree.
and shooter. It's just a better off-ball player.
But we
But
kind
that
of need a
sucks to
bucket
cut.
off the bench.
Well, we have we didn't mention Brunson, or did we? I think
We
Brunson
didn't.
will
We
be on this
don't. We
team.
We picked
didn't.
Donovan and Maxey. That's why we didn't mention Brunson.
The 3 cuts would be Mitchell, Brunson, and AD, which is tough.
Cutting anybody is just
Yeah.
Cutting anybody's tough.
like gruesome.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
No
Then we're
Austin
prioritizing-
Reeves shout, guys. What the heck, man?
FIBA legend.
FIBA bum. He's not built for this type of environment, man.
All right,
What-
Logan, do you have
wait,
a roster?
wait,
do you have a
yeah.
mapped out?
Fellas,
Cooper Flag. Are you about to say
I was
Cooper
just
Flag?
about, I was
Yes.
just about to say that.
Yes.
Who are we
Cooper Flag
chopping
is
for?
gonna be on the team,
Who are
bro.
we chopping for Cooper Flag?
It doesn't
though,
even
man?
matter. Somebody has to go for.
Yeah, we
somebody.
have to have a
gotta go.
token. Oh no, our token white guy's Chet, guys. We're fine.
Dude, Cooper Flag is not a token white guy, bro. He's
He's
something
one of them
different.
ones.
He's not gonna play on this team though.
But he's
Yeah, he's gonna be
on the
really. He's
team.
gonna be really young.
He's gonna be on the
really
team.
young.
So our team right now: Hallie, Book, Ant, Tatum, Chet,
it.
Cade, Maxey, JB, Paolo, J-Dub, Mobley, Bam.
Let's
Well,
get Cooper Flag in there instead of Mobley.
No,
Let's-
cut
I'm-
Paolo.
Paolo?
It's an interesting take. I think
Because Cooper's gonna do
Paolo-
what Paolo does. If you think about it,
better. Why is Jaylen Brown a lock for this team? I'm gonna ask that.
we need
One of the best transition scorers in basketball.
we need a
Hell of an athlete,
lockdown. We need a
dog,
lockdown. We need a lockdown.
defender.
All right, so I guess we'd rather have an athletic, defensively oriented wing than a Paolo who
I'm-
maybe will be a little higher usage, lower efficiency.
If we
but
if we take Jaylen Brown off the team, who else is gonna be able to play perimeter defense?
maybe if
That's a
Paolo
great-
locks in. J-Dub,
J-Dub.
Tatum
we
as a
cut
starter, obviously.
J-Dub.
Yeah.
Cut
Have we cut
J-Dub.
J-Dub?
We didn't cut J-Dub?
I don't think we've officially cut him yet.
I don't want to cut J-Dub.
Do I have
We
to break the
Jaylen
news to him?
Brown. What do we need J-Dub for?
I think J-Dub will be better than Jaylen Brown in 4
Will
years.
he be better for this? We already know Jaylen Brown can.
J-Dub, I think,
seamlessly
can fit with
roll into-
anybody, man. I think J-Dub's a
J-Dub can fit.
monster.
J-Dub is so versatile, bro. He's a better. He'll be for sure a better off-ball player than Jaylen. He already is. He already has better feel. He's a better shooter.
I don't think he'll be a better defender.
I think he'll be on that level,
I don't know.
and I think he'll be a better offensive player.
Who do you
and a
guys
more
want to put
seamless
in? If
offensive
we
fit.
cut Brown or J-Dub, who do you guys want to put in? Flag?
I thought we cut Paolo for Flag, man.
Riv is trying to cut Paolo. I don't know about cutting Paolo, man.
Oh, I thought that we cut J, but then we have hella forwards. We need some. Man.
I mean, yeah, Paolo is not a great fit with the team we're putting
That's
together.
true.
I will
That's,
say
that's,
that.
that's
For
a fair
Italy.
point.
He bailed on them though. They're not taking him back. I don't think.
I hate that for him.
Yeah, but maybe we could try to sell him on that.
We'll trade him for I don't know.
All I know is Cooper
Luigi
Flag will
Vittomi.
be on the 2028 team.
All right,
Like, no
let's
matter
put.
what.
I'm okay cutting Paolo. It's no disrespect
This
to
is
Paolo.
racist. This is racist, man. This is so racist.
So what's the final team, man?
I don't endorse this, but all right, I will sub in the boy Flag. We've got Hallie, Book, Ant, Tatum, and Holmgren in the starting 5 off the bench. Cade, Maxey, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Williams, Evan Mobley, Bam Adebayo, Cooper Flag.
That's
That's
a
pretty
championship
nice.
team in my eyes.
That's pretty nice. Yeah, I think
I don't
that's
mind
nice.
that.
We're doing a little projecting with a couple
For
dudes,
sure, for
with
sure.
Cade, with Flag, but it's 4 years out. Bet on our guys.
With
I
Mobley,
like it.
too. I think Mobley's got to get a little bit better, but he'll be a defensive menace.
He'll be such a good
And
defensive.
then they have it's
option.
no defensive 3 seconds. Oh, brother,
Oh, yeah, dude. We're going to camp his ass down low.
He's gonna be a beast over
Bro,
there.
also, I'm sorry. We are going to have the most disgustingly switchable 2 big lineups.
Oh yeah,
Every big on our roster. Well, we cut AD, but Chet is super switchable. Bam is the most switchable big that we've ever seen. Mobley is very switchable. If Mobley gets skilled enough offensively, if Bam keeps improving as a jump shooter, and then we can play legit a big at the 4 and a big at the 5, and they're both insane rim protectors.
I mean we can
and
play Chet and Bam together.
switchable.
Yeah,
That's
for
what
sure.
that would be crazy.
You
I
can
like
play
it.
Chet and Mobley together. Chet
Yeah,
can play the
man.
4. Oh, we're here.
Yeah. I think that's a
still
good.
here.
I think that's a good group. I think that's a good group. I like
Well,
it.
that's our 2028 team, and that team probably wins the gold. Fellas, give me your top 10 teams in the NBA. Off season is over. You know, the fight for a championship will begin soon. Talk to me about your top 10 teams, man.
Oh man. All right. At number, you guys want to start at 10 or start at 1?
I don't have a list. This is for you guys. I'm
Okay.
chiming in, but
At
I want
number,
you to start from 10 to 1. So
All right.
you know it. Let me rephrase. Logan, you say your 10th. Then Carson says it's
I
10th.
like
Okay.
that. All right.
And
All
then
right,
we
I like
boom, 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 boom. Okay.
I like it.
10, I struggle with. There were 3 teams I considered for the 10 spot. I omitted the Miami Heat and the Phoenix Suns. At number 10, I went with the Indiana Pacers conference finals run. I just feel like out of all these teams, I can bank on their offense being consistently the best with having a little bit of defense. Obviously not that much, but Phoenix, even though they added, like I know some people are fired up about Tyus Jones. I like it. I think it's a cool addition. I just don't see this team being even close to a solid defense. And then the Heat on the inverse, great defensively, one of the most well-coached teams in basketball. Again, they're going to struggle to reliably score the ball and have a decent half-court offense. So I think what the Pacers did is pretty replicable. Is it the most seamless for winning a series? No, because their defense isn't great, but I just feel like I can bank on this offense being great enough to keep them competitive and in game. So I've got Indiana in my 10th spot.
Indiana.
Yeah, man. I think Indiana is just off this list for me at the moment. I mean, that offense is going to be elite no matter what. I have the Grizzlies in my 10 spot. I do think that this is going to be the best Memphis team that we've seen. I still do have some concerns about their half-court offense. Particularly, I worry about, if you go with a Marcus Smart starting configuration. Like, I think that the shooting inconsistency with him
And where?
and Ja
At the
and
2 or
Triple
the
J
3?
at the 2.
3.
With Bane at the 3.
Bane at the 3. Yeah. I mean, positions
It's
don't exist
interchangeable.
like that anymore. Yeah. But I do worry about that offensive lineup, especially if you're going with, Edie at the starting 5. Like, I think the spacing, the shooting ability is kind of nightmarish, but I do think they're going to be a really good defensive team. I'm more encouraged about their defense because I think this past year was rough for them on that end for a number of reasons, but a lot of it was just Triple J having to play the 5, where he's a really weak defensive rebounder. He's much better suited to me in that roamer role at the 4, which Steven Adams let him do. And I think that Edie can let him do the same thing if he's playing his, 24 minutes a night. So the offense, I worry about the consistency in the shooting and the overall skill, and that's why they can't be higher than this. But the athleticism, the defense, the improved offensive Bane and Triple J, and, the depth, having a Vince Williams now, Gigi Jackson, I'm not as high on as some people in like a winning context right now, but they got a lot of talent, and they're going to play their asses off in the regular season. That's for sure. It's more the playoffs where I worry about that half-court offense still.
That's interesting. I think Vince Williams start. Hot take, but I think Vince Williams starts at the 3. They'll bring Smart off the bench, which I think is the best thing for them, honestly.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Here we go, Logan. Shoot me 9.
Number 9, I have the LA Lakers. I think they've got to be in the top 10 because you've still got 2, potentially top 10 basketball players in the world. We'll get into that in a minute. But AD and LeBron gives you such a high baseline. They didn't really get any better anywhere else, which is why I struggle to put them higher on my list. Infamously, last year, they were my title favorite heading into the season. I overlooked the fact that they were coached by Darvin Ham Sandwich. That guy sucks, So I think they'll be a little bit better offensively with some of their schemes with JJ Redick, a little more organized on that end. They just didn't meaningfully improve. So I think they're lingering because of their overwhelming talent of their top 2 stars, but I just can't have them any higher. They still have their limitations. And a lot of this is going to be matchup dependent. Like for some of these teams above them, I could see them, if they got matched up, they could win a series, but I just wouldn't bank on it. I don't think the Lakers got a ton better. And then I just think there's a really big burden on LeBron being one of the best basketball players in the world. And I want to be clear about something. It's not my real concern with LeBron being able to play at that level. It's more of my concern with him being able to do it consistently on a play-to-play basis. And so I think that's a limit or 2 for LA. But I think they got to be in the top 10.
I have them at number 9 as well. They are a tier below everybody above them from this point forward, in my opinion. But like, I still do think having two, in my opinion, top 10 players on the planet, and whatever you think, inarguably two top 15 guys, especially with the size, the ability to pressure the paint that you get from LeBron and AD, like that provides such a consistent baseline. And I do think that the Lakers are always polarizing. So people want to look at last year and act like they sucked because they lost in 5 to the Nuggets, very competitive 5. And they had a stretch of the regular season after the in-season tournament where they went 2-10 and they kind of weren't trying. And Darvin Ham was playing the wrong dudes. We were getting the Cam Reddish special and just like all this weird regular season stuff happened. LeBron and AD gives them, to me, a playoff floor no matter what. They played at a 50-win pace with those two on the floor together last year. And although I think there's clear limitations with the supporting cast, like I don't think that Rui is really meant to be playing the 3. He's not a great rebounder at the spot, and he's not great guarding in space. Like he's not the most agile. And I think the D'Lo Reeves backcourt, it's just like you need to make a switch where you keep an offensively oriented guard in that starting 5 and you pair him with an athlete, a defender, as opposed to having 2 offensively oriented guards, both of whom struggle to defend. Reeves is better than D'Lo, but neither of them are good there. So like they didn't get better at all. They have all the same problems as last year. That's why they can't be higher than this. But I also feel like their supporting cast, if you got them back in a first round series against a team that wasn't the Nuggets, like might not shit themselves as much. You know, like if D'Lo and Rui didn't both play horrible basketball like they did in the first round this year, like completely letting down LeBron and AD. I think they can be better than they showed last year. So 9 feels like a good spot for them to me.
Let me ask you a question, Logan. You were talking about Phoenix for a little bit, so I'm assuming you don't have Phoenix in your top 10, correct?
I do not.
Okay, so because I feel like with the Lakers, 9 is fine because the Lakers are one of those funny teams where if you just tell them, hey, we're going to start the playoffs next month, get healthy, they can probably beat almost any team in the league, right? They're one of the, but for an 82-game season, they'll struggle in this, that, and the third. Phoenix Suns versus Indiana Pacers. Who do you think are going to win in the series, Logan?
Stick to your guns, Logan.
I mean, yeah, I think I'm taking Indiana. I think there's a little bit more of a defensive ceiling that they can tap into. Like I hate Nurkic with a passion. I think he sucks. Yeah, and really too, it has to do with just the complementary pieces, right? When you look at Phoenix and you go, oh, they have such overwhelming basketball talent. It's because of Book. It's because of KD. If it's because of Beal. If they just had Book and KD, and they had a guy that complimented them a little more, and this isn't apples to apples because these guys don't grow on trees, but they had like a Derek White or they had a Drew Holiday, like a guy that really complimented them and can do the little things. Beal just doesn't gel with his team, and I still think Beal is a really good basketball player. I just don't think this is the situation for him to really thrive, right? I think he needs to be in a heavy on-ball role, and he can do some of the complimentary things, but I just think both of these teams would be well suited if Beal could be somewhere else where he has the ball in his hands more, could be more of an engine, and if they had a guy who complimented them more defensively. And yeah, I think the Pacers are a little more athletic too. I think the Suns still have really big athletic limitations and size limitations with their roster that Indiana just doesn't have. I think they get out rebounded in that series. So that one's close. That one's close for sure, but I'm still taking Indiana.
Okay. So both of you have the Lakers at 9. I respect that. Logan, don't know why you turned your mic off. You have to go at 8.
My fault. Force to have it. Number 8, I have the Dallas Mavericks, and that may be surprising because they just got to the NBA Finals. I think it's going to be hard for them to replicate this run. Luka and Kyrie played out of their mind. They really just were opportunistic with their times. When Luka was off, Kyrie stepped up. When Kyrie was off, Luka stepped up. They lost some pieces, right? They lose Derrick Jones Jr. That I'm not as concerned about. I think they replenished pretty well with those pieces. They got Lively coming back. I'm not counting out a Mavericks run. I just think that you have to get elite Luka. You have to get elite Kyrie. And I think people forget, like, if Oklahoma City shot better, I think Oklahoma City could have upset Dallas. And for a lot of these teams, I just like their formulas just a little bit more, where I think they got a lot better offensively. I think they got a lot better defensively. Dallas didn't really improve to me all that much, and I think I hate calling it a fluke. This run felt a little flukish to me in the sense that, like, I don't think Dallas is going to be back here. I'm not counting it out. Like, Luka's a madman. Luka could go and drop 35, 10, and 10. And that's the other side of this coin, is that if Luka's at full health, Luka did this being at, 70 to 80% healthy. We don't know what a fully healthy Luka looks like. So maybe Luka comes back and is at a completely other level next season, and it's just the best player in the world and does this again. But I think it's a little bit of a fluky run and the West is tough. That's the other component of this too. I think that you're running into a lot of tough teams out West. Dallas for me I think they're my fourth team out West right now.
I'm excited to hear the rest. Carson, talk to me.
I think 8 is low.
Yeah, you made a face.
I think 8 is low for the Mavs. And if you were just going to look at last year's team in a vacuum and say, with this roster, would I expect them to replicate that result and go back to the finals? The answer would be no, because I do think that they drew some fortunate matchups. I don't agree that Luka and Kyrie played above their means, because I think that actually they both had like several really bad stretches. Luka was awful against the Clippers. Kyrie was obviously awful in the finals. They lost that series, but like Kyrie overall, I thought was about what you would expect. Luka overall was a little below what you would expect. And so, yes, I do think that they took advantage of a Clippers team that was without Kawhi, a Thunder team that lacked the shot making and overall playmaking around SGA to punish them. And then a Timberwolves team that also was struggling in terms of offensive skill. And like Ant wasn't the level of decision maker and offensive number one that he needed to be yet. So yeah, it wasn't the most brutal path through the West, but they beat 3 legit good teams, and they did it without their superstars playing above their means. So I have the Mavs a few spots higher than this. I think that I'm going to bank on the fact that they do have these 2 incredible offensive forces, 2 of the best offensive players on the planet. And the difference between last year's team and this year's team, to me, is the injection of offensive skill that you get with Klay Thompson. Because even if you take a little step back defensively with him at the 3 instead of a Derrick Jones Jr., you're taking a big step forward offensively, because the biggest problem for the Mavs was just like a complete lack of reliable shot making from anybody else in that starting 5. You just think about how OKC guarded them, right? Blitzing, sending 2 to every pick and roll. And PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr., they made enough shots in that series, but it was something that the defense was happy living with. Klay, for all of his flaws, and this was a really, really awful year in Golden State, he was overtasked as a number 2 option, as a number 3 option, a clear number 3 with 2 offensive stars, the shot quality they can create for him. I think that he'll have a much better year. I think he'll help this offense. I'm not worried about them losing Derrick Jones Jr. because they add Najee Marshall, who's also a really good defender, brings more shooting, brings more playmaking. And I still really like their athleticism and size in the front court. So I don't think that they're going to go back to the finals, but I think that they got better meaningfully this offseason. And I think that 8 is definitely a little bit low for them.
So who do you have in A spot?
Yeah, who's your 8?
My number 8 is the Bucks. I think that this was a
Milwaukee?
team that was, yeah.
Ooh.
I can't tell which. I presume that you have them higher. I don't think you could have them that much lower than this. Maybe you do.
I think this like, this is I
Yeah.
think 8 is around. Yeah, that's bad. I was thinking like what the numbers, and I was thinking the teams. I'm like, 8 is pretty good. 8 is fine.
It feels reasonable to me, because I definitely think that
second best team in the East.
I do not have them as the second best team in the East.
We're good then.
Yeah. No. I think there's a couple other teams that improved by more, but I do think that the Bucks improved. And part of that is just like having capable dudes who can play some of those minutes at the 2, right? Adding Gary Trent, who can shoot the hell out of the ball. And when engaged, we've seen him defend capably. Adding DeLon Wright, who's just a nice do-it-all winning sort of guard. Like, unfortunately, it was just a real struggle for them trying to find somebody who could play capably on both sides of the ball. Malik Beasley could shoot the hell out of it, but that defensive backcourt was just brutal. So I think Dame and Giannis can tap into their fit better. I think they can become a more dominant 2-man game. And I mean, even with all their issues, right? Even with the disaster with Adrian Griffin and then upgrading to Doc Rivers, who's also a buffoon, and like the fact that they couldn't defend throughout this year, and that Giannis and Dame didn't ever really gel in that 2-man game like we thought they could. They still, I wish that I had the number in front of me. They had like a +10 net rating with Dame and Giannis on the floor together, and they won like 70% of their games with those 2 on the floor together. So I think this will be a better year. Unfortunately, I'm just still not super high on Brook as a defensive foundational piece at this stage. Middleton, although he had a great postseason, there's some volatility there. I don't know that he's going to be available, and the depth is better, but it's not great. So they're flawed, but improved. And Dame and Giannis, those two, they make you a threat to beat anybody. But I do think that every team above them is probably more complete.
So you got Milwaukee. My brother in Christ down there has Dallas. Okay, this conversation is getting extremely interesting, and I love it. Number 7, fellas.
Disclaimer, I actually wish, now that I made this list pretty fast, I kind of wish I swapped Dallas and Milwaukee. I have Milwaukee at my 7 spot. So this
You
will
are
flow
entitled
nicely.
to swap them right now.
That's beautiful.
I'll do it, and the only disclaimer I'll give is because the Milwaukee Bucks are not going to win the title next year because they have Doc Rivers coaching their team. Duh. I mean, like, that's like the most simple take ever. Like, Doc's their coach, they're cooked, right? They're done for. There's no shot they're going to win the chip. They're also unathletic. They're really old. Those are really big concerns that aren't going anywhere for Milwaukee. But I do think people have swung a little bit too far in the other direction with this team. I think this is probably the absolute bottom for Milwaukee. Dame had a bad year, was struggling with a lot of personal issues, right? The divorce, the move, all the other stuff. I think Dame is going to be, I hope he's in a better mental space. I hope he's more locked in and engaged. And like Carson said too, I hope they lean into the pairing of Giannis and Dame more. Like, I think you can do so much more offensively with this duo. The Bucks are flawed. They'll be a good basketball team. As you said, they're a threat to beat anybody with Dame and Giannis, but they're this low for me. And I do think they got better too. They added Tarian Prince. They added Gary Trent. They added DeLon Wright. I think they got a little bit better. They're just not going to win the chip because Doc's leading the charge. But the coaching gap between Kidd and Doc, I will swap Dallas to 7. I'll put Milwaukee at 8. I'm pretty confident with that.
Okay.
Like this. Oh, wow.
All right. I think the top 8.
Oh, sorry. So just to make it sure we're all on the same page here, you have Milwaukee. You dropped them at 8. You put Dallas
at 7.
Okay. Let's do it.
So at 7, I have the Sixers. I think the top 8 is pretty strong overall. I think that Philly has arguably the best big 3 in basketball right now. And I think that PG is really a perfect fit there. I think that he is going to have a much better season. And by the way, I thought that he had a great regular season last year, one of the best of his career, like the efficiency, on-off impact. I think PG gets a lot of unfair slander. Not to say that he hasn't had his shortcomings, but just like people love mocking playoff P more than anything. The reality is that he's not meant to be a second option on a great team at this stage in his career just because he's not the athlete he used to be. He doesn't pressure the rim in the same way. So he's very reliant on that pull-up jumper and those jumpers off the catch as well. And like, that means sometimes he's going to just lay a stinker like he did in the Dallas series a couple times. But when he's the number 3 playing off of one of the most dominant 2-man games in basketball, I can't think of a better third star you could inject into an offense. Like, he is one of the absolute best catch and shoot players and off-ball stars in basketball. He can defend multiple positions at a high level. So I think that is going to be a phenomenal fit. I think Embiid's a top 5 guy on the planet. I think Maxey had a really encouraging postseason, and I've always loved his game. Really, the only reason that Philly isn't higher on this list for me, because I think that they have the clear potential to be a top 10 team on both sides of the ball, and they do have this 3-headed monster. It's just that the depth isn't the strongest. And I'm happy that they got Kelly Oubre back because I think defensively and athletically, he brings a lot of value. I think Drummond eating up the backup 5 minutes is solid. I think bringing in Eric Gordon for some of the shot making, some capable point of attack defense, like Caleb Martin, another guy. Like, they added some solid wings, but this roster is very, very dependent on the big 3 for sure. And I think that the teams above them are just stronger all around rosters to me.
Yeah, I have Philly. This is your 7 team or this is your 6 team?
That's my 7.
So you go 6, buddy.
So I have the Timberwolves in my 6th spot. I have Philly 1 spot higher. I think there's a little bit of an offensive gap reliably right now between Minnesota and Philly. I think I just trust the combination of Embiid, Maxey, and George more. Obviously, Minnesota's better defensively. But that being said, I could see Minnesota getting better if Ant reliably improves, as a ball handler, playmaker, decision maker, if the shot's more consistent, if Karl Anthony Towns is more consistent. I definitely see an argument for Minnesota being higher. And the reason Philly can't be higher on my list, I'll spoil this. I'll just knock Philly out right now. It's the Embiid quotient. I trust Maxey as my number 2. I trust PG as my number 3. I think they meaningfully improved off the bench. How consistently great can Embiid be? Will he be healthy come playoff time? I think these are valid concerns. That's why Philadelphia isn't in my upper echelon, because I think they are supremely talented. Minnesota's in my 6th spot because of offensive concerns. I think this is going to be a top 3 defense in basketball. Probably the best with what they did last year. McDaniels, all defense. Gobert, all defense. Cat's a good defensive 4. Ant's a good point of attack guy and off-ball defender when he's engaged. You'll see his lapses sometimes, but Minnesota is going to be one of the best defenses in basketball. And like I said, I can see Minnesota climbing higher if we see tangible improvement from Cat and from Ant.
So you think Minnesota is better than Dallas?
Yes, I do. Even though they beat them in the playoffs, I am anticipating a little bit of a leap offensively from Ant. I'm anticipating Cat being better. And then I just trust Minnesota's defensive floor. I trust Minnesota's defensive floor a lot. They obviously don't have the best player in that matchup. Luka's the best guy there, but I like Minnesota's defensive floor and what they give me.
I think that Minnesota was a better basketball team than Dallas last year. I actually feel that pretty strongly. It was just a bad matchup, and I think that it was one in which Dallas protected the hell out of the rim, and that was a real problem for Ant, and he wasn't really capable of dissecting those pack paints, and that's still going to be a challenge for sure. But also, Ant just sucked. He played his worst basketball the postseason by far. Cat sucked. He played his worst basketball the postseason by far.
Down too is fatigue.
For sure. So I think that there are a number of reasons that even though I do believe Minnesota was the better overall team last year, Dallas won and they deserved to win. The reason that I have Minnesota at 6 now and I have Dallas at 5 is that I do think Dallas has improved from where they were last year. And I do think that now that formula of just having 2 really reliable offensive stars plus now a third option who I can bank on so much more in Clay, just how that increases their offensive ceiling to me is enough to have them above Minnesota. But I'm with Logan on a lot of this stuff. I just think this defense is going to be suffocating. It's a crazy combination of size and athleticism on the perimeter and the interior. Their depth is phenomenal. They lose Kyle Anderson, but I think Terrence Shannon is going to be one of the most pro-ready rookies we see this year. That athleticism, defense, shooting should all translate.
Terrence is the man, dude.
Like, they just have a lot of good basketball players, man. And the thing that's going to hold them back from being higher in these conversations is their overall offensive production. What sort of offense can they produce in the playoffs with both Cat and Rudy on the floor? Do we get a more consistent version of Cat? Like, for all those reasons, I'm going to just bank on what I know I'm going to get night in, night out from Dallas and from all the other teams who are in my top 5. But I think the defensive ceiling and floor is too high. And this team can absolutely play better offensively than they did in the Western Conference Finals because we saw it in those first couple rounds. And it's just going to be about their stars delivering and role players making shots and figuring out what the hell to do with Rudy offensively, which is definitely a big question. But 6 feels like a good spot for Minnesota to me.
Well, Logan said it's 5, did he not?
Carson said it's 5. You got Dallas at 5, yeah?
I got Dallas 5, Minnesota 6.
You want to leapfrog?
Yeah, Minnesota at 6, Philly at 5?
Yes,
Logan?
sir.
Okay, so shoot the 4s, man. We all know one is Boston. So it's really just the 4 here.
So at 4, I have the Knicks. I love what the Knicks did this offseason. Yeah, man. I love the Knicks. I think that they are checking a lot of boxes when you consider how good of a basketball team they already were, even without Julius Randle on the floor. Like, just the combination of what Brunson does as that offensive engine, elite offensive rebounding, the team defense that they were able to put forth. And I think that Mikal is a really, really awesome add. I think bringing another wing who can defend, who fits in seamlessly offensively, like who brings skill, not necessarily on ball shot creation, but can knock down his catch and shoot jumpers at a high clip, can cut away from the ball, fits in easily, and now is going to form, to me, the best defensive wing duo in basketball with OG, who I also love, who I think is a top 50 player. Like, they're stacking talent, and they're stacking talent in a way that makes sense. I think that the Hartenstein loss sucks for them, and they need Mitchell Robinson to be healthy, obviously, which is always a question mark. And the Randall fit is going to be a little bit weird because that is a very big lineup if they're trotting out OG and Randall and a center, which is what I think they would be doing if all those guys are healthy. And it's really a two-sided sword with Randall because he has the ability to drag this team down when he is the worst version of himself when he's taking the offense out of rhythm so he can clank his tough jumpers, and he's not making good decisions with the basketball. He's not defending at a high level. That can be a problem because you can just think, I'd rather have Brunson and 3 wings who can defend
and Josh
shoot.
Hart, or DiVincenzo.
Exactly. Like, let's just run out that lineup. I also think that Randall provides a ceiling for this team when he's on as a shot maker with the ability to give you 25, 10, and 5 that nobody else on this roster can. So I just think they have combinations. I think if Randall sucks, you don't need to play him, and you can still put forth a really good basketball team with, as Logan mentioned, a DiVincenzo, Mikal, OG wing rotation, or Josh Hart in there for one of those 3 guys. To me, they have the mentality that I'm looking for. They play with the heart that you need. They have the defensive personnel. They have the shooting personnel. And then they have the shot creation from Brunson and potentially Randall to be the number 4 team. I do think there are teams who just have like more overwhelmingly easy paths to great offenses or have like one single force, or the top 2 teams I just think are absurdly stacked, even more stacked than this Knicks team. But I think they belong in the 4 spot. I think that this is a really awesome basketball team.
So come playoff time, because I do love the Knicks. I think the Knicks have built a pretty nice team, especially defensively. They're fully equipped on that end to guard Boston. I think what's going to hold them back is that secondary creator. How much do you trust Julius Randle, who's going to be the guy that's going to get those reps in that situation? Obviously, Logan,
that's the concern.
Saying 0. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you trust him the most. Give me a number, Carson.
1.5.
Jesus fucking
I don't like Julius Randle, bro, but I also think it can't possibly be worse than it already has been in the playoffs. That's for sure.
Yo, you're right. You're right.
And he has his stretches, man. Like,
they got a better team too now.
Absolutely, they have a better team. And again, it's like, if he is sucking, I think you have enough offensive skill. Whoa. Let me clarify. If he is struggling on the basketball court,
that was nuts.
That was crazy. That was crazy what I just said. But I just don't think that you need to play him 35 minutes a night. I think they're talented enough. I think they have enough depth that there are other ways for them. You know, maybe they can't reach the title ceiling, but to be a really good basketball team, Boston is obviously just the biggest challenge. But like you said, they're well equipped to guard them. They have the best wing duo defensively that you can ask for. And they've got a lot of offensive skill. So I think 4 is right.
We saw last season a stretch where Julius Randle starting to say, I'm bigger than 95% of the guys guarding me.
Yeah.
I'm going to the rim. Bully ball. You know, if he needs to do that. Yeah, if he can get to that vibe and then just kick out when he needs to.
Dude, that's the thing, Rip. It's all about playing cerebral basketball, Julius Randle. It is making the right decision, making the right play. It's never been about talent. The dude's a jumbo-sized forward who can handle knockdown shots, who can play make, rebound, can it's never a talent or skill issue. It's all up here, man. If Randle can get to playing winning basketball, then I really like the Knicks. And I like the Knicks a lot. I have them at my number 3 spot. I have the Nuggets at 4, and I struggle with this one. Obviously, I think the Nuggets have the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic. But I'm kind of sounding my alarm bells about the Nuggets' real title chances and their depth, right? They lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope from their title team. They lose Bruce Brown. Those are major, major losses to a title recipe. And I just think the Nuggets are a little bit overconfident right now that they're going to be able to replenish what those guys gave them in their young players. Now, I like Julian Strawther a lot. This was a number that we read out. Looked good in Summer League. In the pre-draft process, the thing on him, he was a 99th percentile spot-up player, right? One of the best spot-up guys in the nation, can shoot the hell out of the ball, can attack closeouts. He's the guy that I'm penciling in. I'm the most optimistic about him stepping in and giving them real minutes to supplement that value, but they are under the impression that it's going to be Christian Brown. And I like Christian Brown, good energy, good effort. Also, sidebar here real quick. Did you guys count how many times D. Wade and Noah Eagle said energy on the broadcast during the Olympics, man? It had to be over 100, bro.
Yeah.
Noah Eagle's not a great basketball guy.
D-Wade was doing his thing though.
Yeah, I thought he got better. The hitting the pronouns bar twice in the same game was a rough start.
That was not ideal. It definitely was a rocky way to go.
Yeah.
But, we move. You got to get better some way, somehow, some way.
Got to get the reps in for sure. Got to get the reps in.
So Logan, you might as well say who's your number 2 team. You're already here. Why not stop?
I think me and Carson agree, man. At number 2, I've got Oklahoma City, and I just think that there's levels that Oklahoma City is going to get better. One, youngest team in basketball last year, youngest number 1. Well, I don't know about youngest team in basketball. They were the youngest number 1 seed ever. So this was a learning curve for them. I think it was a learning experience for this team. They needed this experience, and I just think there's so many guys that can get better. I don't know if SGA can get better. If he does, man, you're talking about a bona fide MVP candidate. He already was there.
Already is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, could be the MVP of the league next season. Chet Holmgren crapped his pants shooting the basketball. This is a guy who shot 40% from behind the arc at Gonzaga, is an elite shooter of the basketball. I don't think he's going to disappear at that level next year. Jalen Williams had an abysmal series, right? I just think that they are one of the most talented teams in basketball, and they're going to get even better next year. I love their depth. Guys like Kason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe. You add in Isaiah Hartenstein. I can't remember the exact numbers last year, but you're combining 2 of the top 10 rim protectors in all of basketball last year inside 6 feet in Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. And so you have now a combination lineup where you could run Hartenstein at the 5, Holmgren at the 4 in certain matchups against big bodies, potentially a Minnesota, for example. But you're also addressing the biggest need that Oklahoma City had last year, which was size and rebounding in Hartenstein. So I think that's a home run signing. They meaningfully got better in free agency. They retained their guys, and they have a team that is improving now. And so right now, if you ask me my NBA Finals matchup, I would say Boston and I would say Oklahoma City. I think they're the most talented teams in basketball, and they're 2 of the most well-coached teams in basketball. Dagnall is a phenomenal coach, and I also think that Missoula has really grown in that respect too. So I think we're on a collision course right now. Last year, I thought it was Denver-Boston. That doesn't materialize, but I think we're on a collision course if these teams stay healthy for Boston OKC in the finals.
I like that. Carson, finish it off, man.
Yeah, so I have Denver at 3 and OKC at 2, and I really considered OKC at number 1, man. I think that this team is disgustingly talented, and I trust SGA to consistently deliver as a number 1 option in a way that I don't quite with Jason Tatum yet. And as you say, like, Logan, I just think that this team is trending in the right direction in every way, and they have such a disgusting wealth of options at their disposal at all times, like having the ability to go big with Chet and Hartenstein on the floor, which I legitimately think works. Adding just the best guard defender on the planet in Alex Caruso to a team that already has point of attack hounds. And like the wing depth still, Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins could have been better in the playoffs, but I think they're only trending upward. Same with Kason Wallace. Like, I do think there's a case to be made that they are still going to have their hands full with the Denver offense. And that's why I still do have Denver at number 3. Even losing KCP, I think that I have concerns about Christian Brown and his shot, but I do think he's going to be the starter at the 2 because of his athleticism and defense. But I think if Jamal Murray plays better than he did in this run, where he was an absolute disaster, if MPJ plays better than he did in this run, where he was an absolute disaster against Minnesota, like, this is still one of the best offenses that we've ever seen. And it's one of the most well-composed starting 5s it had been. Now you lose KCP, but that big 4 still, it's like there are such clearly defined roles. The insane spot-up shooting of MPJ, the beautiful rim finishing, dunker spot value of AG, with the insane 2-man game of Jokic and Jamal. And I just know that Jokic is going to be the best player on the floor in these series. But, I mean, OKC, we're talking about 8 dudes who are real quality basketball players, and Denver just doesn't have that at this stage. And OKC has the athleticism. They have the number 1. They have the interior and perimeter defense. If J-Dub's more consistent as a second creator, if Chet is more consistent as a shot maker, they could absolutely be number 1. Like, this team is disgustingly talented.
Oh, okay. So this is interesting. Logan, you have definitely more controversy with your list. With some of those teams, but I love it.
He always does.
I don't know about putting Indiana at 10, but we're here nonetheless.
Yeah, somehow I ended up with like Miles Turner in my top 10 centers list, man.
That was a crazy moment.
That was my most
serious?
Yeah, bro, well, I just conveniently forgot Karl Anthony Towns existed,
But he had him over Sabonis, and
Sabonis stinks, bro. So overrated, so overrated, bro.
Dude, you can't separate overrated from the fact that he is nevertheless better than Miles Turner.
He's still better than Miles Turner.
He's not, bro. Sabonis can't shoot. Sabonis
That's
can't
so crazy,
shoot, bro.
This is so crazy.
Get an open jumper, and then he can come talk to me, bro.
Sabonis is definitely better than Miles Turner.
Sabonis,
yes, I do believe he's overrated.
Logan, you are literally focusing on one trait. Miles Turner shoots the ball very well. He doesn't do anything else at a high level. Sabonis doesn't shoot the ball well, is an elite rebounder, an elite playmaker, is still able to give you his efficient 18 a night. Like, I'm not a Sabonis guy, but if you were spoon feeding him the quality looks that Turner gets spoon fed and you weren't asking him to anchor the offense with playmaking,
Sabonis would miss him because he can't shoot.
Bro, Logan, this is one of the worst takes I've actually ever heard in my life, not just from you, but from anybody, that Miles Turner is better than Domantas Sabonis. And by the way, one of the things that you mentioned in your take was you were like, well, there's 3 things that are valuable for a center that I need. I need you to be able to space the floor, finish at the rim, as a lob threat, and protect the rim. Miles Turner only does one of those things. He only shoots. He's not a good rim protector anymore. He's a terrible rebounder at the 5, and he's not a good vertical athlete.
It's the floor ceiling debate, man. If I want a cool floor, Sabonis is probably the guy that I want. He's not a vertical athlete. The guy cannot protect the rim.
One of the best rebounders in the league.
He is an elite rebounder. He's arguably the best in the league. He's strong as a freaking ox. I just think he's limited as a scorer. He can't protect the rim whatsoever. I think his assists are inflated because of the offense that he's in with dribble handoffs. Like, he's a good passer, but he's not like a Jokic level passer.
Of course not.
And then he can't space the floor. So those are meaningful things to me. The guy can't protect the rim. He can't shoot the pill and stretch the floor.
Okay, here's the thing, Logan. Because of expectations, you are only focusing on Sabonis' weaknesses, and you are only focusing on Miles Turner's strengths.
Precisely.
That's my point.
Yeah, like, you get it.
Okay, well, I think that's a ridiculous take.
I'll be fair. Sabonis is a little bit of a dribble handoff merchant.
He is. He is.
Nobody's denying that. Could Miles Turner do that? No. Is Miles Turner the same post player as Sabonis? No.
Sabonis is just strong. Sabonis is just strong.
Shit,
man. He can just physically
a big man, you need that.
Guys.
A big man, you need that. You know, you need that strength.
I'm just saying that one of the fundamental tenets of my take too was the fact that in a playoff setting, you can't take away, Turner's pick and pop game. I'm a Kings fan. I want Sabonis so desperately to prove me wrong and consistently hit mid-range. I'm a Kings fan. I want him to hit mid-range jumpers. I want him to hit threes. If Sabonis gets there, I'll give him all the flowers he wants. I am severely scarred from that Golden State series where Looney is running drop against him, and he got dogged. Sabonis got dogged.
Well, I think you should just ask for a mid-range. You ask for a lot here, like 3-point line. Like, you should.
Well, we see it every offseason in training camp. I see it. The Kings fans, Sabonis is hitting threes. He's hitting threes. And then I never see it in a game, man.
Wait, why are you a Kings fan?
I don't want to talk about
it. So he can say that he's a Kings fan just to hate on Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah, where did this come from?
Look, man, I want to be a Knicks fan, bro. I want to submit my application.
That bro is from Virginia.
I want to be
there's no basketball team in Virginia.
I'm not going to be a Wizards fan, man.
Oh, yeah. I went to their arena. It's cool.
It's cool. Yeah. Right? At what cost, though, man? You would love it. You'd be rooting for the Jordan Poole show.
It was like $20 a ticket. The ticket was $20. You can't beat $20. You know what I'm saying? Like,
beat that.
I was in there. No. You got to sneak down there. You get some drinks from the bar. It's a vibe nonetheless, Even Orlando tickets. We got $70 Orlando tickets, and they were a playoff team. It was against Toronto, though. We ended up sneaking down. We were sitting damn near by Scotty's bench.
That's crazy.
Him just stand up. He never sat down. He just stood up the whole game. So.
Warriors tickets, Knicks tickets are similar, but it's ridiculous, bro. It's like $130 to get to the seat that is blocked by the Jumbotron in the very back row. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's how the Garden is. See, the Nets tickets are actually they're not
right.
that bad.
Yeah.
Top 10 players in the league. I'm joining here on this one. This is where I join in and have a little fun. We're gonna go round table. I have a feeling Logan's gonna piss me off. I'm gonna start with Logan first, just so I can get the anger out the way. Logan, who's your top 10 player in the league?
I caught an audible here, and one of your clips has been doing the rounds about this guy. Throughout the playoffs, I was adamant that Anthony Edwards was a top 10 guy, and Ant can get on this list for sure. Ant was my toughest cut. At number 10, I still have Kevin Durant. I want to get Ant on this list. Ant's one of my favorite guys to watch in the league, and I think if we see a jump shooting improvement that he could get here. 10, I still have KD, though. One of the best shooters in basketball, one of the best isolation scorers in basketball, defends his ass off. I think this version of KD is probably the best playmaking version of KD that we've ever seen. And he's still a great player. I just don't think that, again, man, it kind of comes back to the attribution thing that we were talking about with Ja earlier. People will probably take the team success with Minnesota, give it all solely to Ant. It's a great team defense. Ant is the face of this franchise. We saw a couple of good playoff rounds from Ant. If you had asked me this during the playoffs, I probably would have had Ant in my top 10. But I'm going to go, and even though the Timberwolves beat the Suns, I'm going to go with KD in my 10 spot and give him his respect. But I can definitely see Ant climbing onto this list during the season.
I have a video of Ant out here.
No, of KD doing the rounds.
Of course,
that
classic.
Yeah, that video. Yeah. We're gonna put that. I have a feeling that the guy I have at 10, you don't have in your top 10
Sabonis?
list.
You have Sabonis in your top 10?
Miles Turner.
If anybody ever had Sabonis in their top 10, please go to hell.
Kendrick Perkins, MVP, man.
Perk voted him for
Defensive
MVP.
Player of the Year, too.
Perk is one of the worst basketball minds I've ever seen in my life.
I
do think Ant is going to get into the top 10 eventually. I'm also of the mind that he's not top 10 this year, not top 10 yet. He'll get there. He's more in the 11, 12, 13, like where Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson is for me. But my top 10 guy, my 10th guy is Anthony Davis. I think Anthony Davis is one of the best two-way players in basketball. I think he's a top 3 defender in the league, him, Bam, and I'm blanking on that. Oh, Draymond Green, in my opinion. Those are 3 of the best. Oh, Rudy Gobert is probably top 4, 3, whatever. But those are the 3 best defenders in the league just because of their switchability, the way they can defend 1 through 5, the way they can also defend the rim. Anthony Davis, and then the fact that Anthony Davis can give you 25 and 10 a night when he's consistent, when he's locked in. He has a really good post game. He's too quick for big men, and then he's too strong for small forwards. So he's that perfect mismatch type of big man. And then, of course, what he brings defensively. So for me, AD is sitting at 10 comfortably.
All right, let me ask a question. Are we considering Kawhi Leonard for this list, or is he not eligible? Because
I have him in my top 15. I just cannot rely on the health.
I agree with Rib.
If we just said no injuries, he's top 10, of course.
For sure.
Yeah.
But if he's in your top 10, Carson, talk to us.
I'm just trying to be consistent with the criteria because, like, for me, he's not a top 10 guy I would want because I don't trust him to be healthy. But if we are just looking in a vacuum, top 10 win healthy, then I think he definitely is on this list. So
I agree.
All right. If you guys don't have him because of health, I'll leave him off of my list just to be consistent with the criteria. But if we're doing a list in a vacuum, I would have Kawhi at my number 6 spot. I'll say that.
Yes,
I'm
in a vacuum, high. He's about 6, 7. One of those for me.
Yeah, the man is still absolutely insane. Okay, so with that in mind, I actually have KD in my 10 spot as well. And I think that you are still looking at one of the most efficient, best offensive players on the planet, no doubt about it. And he is such a seamless fit anywhere. And that's part of why, like, he thrives so much in Team USA, right? Because he's so effective without the ball. He can get you just those quick touch buckets so consistently. The reason that he's not higher for me is basically everybody else either has a more pronounced defensive impact or more pronounced playmaking impact. And although I think KD all time is one of the 2 best scorers we've ever seen, this isn't the best version of KD as a scorer that we've seen because of his athletic regression. And it didn't bite him so much in the series against the Timberwolves this year, although you still see it in spots like the fact that he's not able to toast Cat and Gobert off switches in terms of getting by them. His shot making was incredible over those 4 games. But what we've seen in the previous 2 seasons is the fact that he's just so much less of a threat going downhill now. Like, he got swallowed up by that Celtics perimeter defense, right? And he really, really struggled in that series in 2022. 2023, a big athletic defensive wing like Aaron Gordon was able to force him to struggle as well. Even though he's a great jump shooter, he's just a bit too reliant on that at this stage without having that elite playmaking or elite defensive impact. So I have him at 10. I think he's like kind of the perfect 1B at this stage where he can't quite carry the consistent offensive load he used to, but I mean, he fits alongside any other star player pretty much perfectly.
Okay. Yeah. That's following the trend a little bit. I have Kevin Durant at 9. I think Kevin Durant, like you mentioned, one of the most seamless offensive players in the league, kind of one of the best plug-and-play players we've seen all time. Still one of the best scorers in the NBA. Okay in the playmaking department, not the best guy, sort of a connector at this point in his career. Still really good rim protector, still good on-ball defender. Like, he's still good at that. I just think at this point, like you mentioned, 1A, 1B, maybe he is that number 2 on a championship team, or if you have that uber 1A guy, he can be the 1B. Just Kevin Durant's age, it kind of hinders him in matchups that require a lot of athleticism, physicality, like the one in the Timberwolves series. But I have him sitting at 9, which I think is a great spot for the talent we have in the league.
I think so too. I think this is the right range for him, and I struggle to rank this guy, especially after the Olympics. At number 9, I have Steph Curry. When you're looking at two-way value, I think that basically everybody above him on this list brings more.
I just saw Rib's face, bro.
Logan.
I don't think it's a crazy ranking. I just saw Rib's face.
I just get upset. I just want to be higher. That's all.
Well, and actually, I'm the only reason that I have Steph this low. I would have Steph at 8, and I would have another guy higher, but I'm going logically consistent with the rankings that Carson and I made earlier in the year. I goofed with my Tatum ranking because I'd call an audible now.
Call it. If you want to call it. That's what I would say.
Then I would have Tatum here. I would have Jason Tatum in my 9 spot.
Okay.
I would have Tatum here, but I was being logically consistent with the rankings that we made earlier.
Brother, there's nothing wrong with changing your opinion. Don't let my face.
Oh, then fine. If y'all let me have free reign, I'm going Tatum at 10, KD at 9. Then I would do that.
Oh shit, you went that far.
I would drop Tatum in my 10 spot, just with the scoring limitations. If you're giving me one player, I'd rather have a guy that can shoulder that load. So if you're letting me call the audible, I'll go Tatum at 10, I'll go KD at 9, and I'll save Steph for my 8 spot.
Oh, so he went full audible. I didn't think he'd go that far. Okay.
Tatum screwed up my whole top 10, bro.
Bro didn't just change the call. He changed the entire formation. He said we're going from shotgun to the eye.
So your 8 is Steph. Your 9 is KD. Your 10 is
10
Tatum.
will be Tatum.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. My number 9 is Anthony Davis. The reason that I have him just a tiny bit over KD is because I think that he has a strong case as the best defensive player on the planet. I thought in 2023 that was as dominant an individual defensive playoff run as we've seen in our lifetimes. That was just incredible. And he was inconsistent offensively in that run, but still overall, he's good to give you a pretty damn efficient 25 and 12. The rim finishing isn't what it was at his peak athletically, but he's still one of the most dominant paint forces in basketball. The touch shot making has been very good. And when you pair that with the fact that it's I know he can play any defensive coverage, he can switch guard and space. He's one of the best pure rim protectors, one of the best pure rebounders. He's just an immensely impactful basketball player. The reason that I have him below everybody else is everybody else to me is cut out to be a number 1 in a way that AD just needs somebody else to shoulder that consistent offensive load. Cause I know that he is going to have his off nights. He's going to have his passive offensive performances. And sometimes that touch shot making is going to be off and he might just give you 15. Whereas everybody else to me is more built to carry that offensive load night in, night out. But I think his defensive ability makes him a good fit at number 9.
Who's your 8? Because Logan shouted his 8 out.
Yeah, so my number 8 is Steph. I agree with Logan, and that hurts me a little bit because I love Steph so much, but I do think that we just saw enough of a regression this year where he's still insane in terms of offensive impact, no doubt about it. But after the All-Star break, 25 games, he was, I think, about 23 a night on 57% true shooting. I don't want to overreact to that because I think the load that he had to carry was insane in that offense. And I think that he just wore down a little bit. But I think over the course of the year, this was not the best version of Steph that we've seen. I thought that he was a bit less dynamic as a playmaker. I think that he is another guy like KD who neither of them have ever had a game that's predicated on getting to the rim. But when you're talking about Steph taking 7% of his shots at the rim compared to during his best seasons, that number was up at 20, 23. I do think that also for him, just puts an exceptional burden on the consistent, tough shot making. And it also makes him a little bit less efficient as an on-ball creator than what he used to be. So for the gravity, the offensive impact, still the overall efficiency, and the fact that, he is still one of the best pick and roll creators in basketball, 8 feels like a good spot. It's just, he's not at his offensive peak anymore. And certainly guys who are going to be more impactful defensively and have more physical advantages that translate consistently. And it was just a little bit of a rough finish to the year. That's why I have Steph at 8.
Okay. I guess I'll shoot my 8-7.
Sure.
So at 8, I have Tatum. This
Okay.
is where I plug in Tatum. I think he's one of the best all-around players in basketball, and that's sort of been his niche. Like, he's not elite at anything, but he's really, really good to great at a shit ton of things. Rebounding, defensive switchability. Solid playmaker. He's a good scorer. He's not like Kevin Durant. He's not Steph. He's not SGA, but he's a good scorer. I do think him, same way how we talk about Steph struggling for those last 25 games, him not shooting the ball well throughout the playoffs is really a hindrance of his offensive game in comparison to young guys like SGA, like Luka, like Ant Edwards, even like Jalen Brunson, because to go on that type of stretch, especially when you have a team like that, is kind of insane. But I think 8 is a pretty good spot. He's only 26. He still does a lot of in terms of comparing him to Kevin Durant, he's a better rebounder. He's a better team defender, I feel like, better playmaker at this point in his career. And Kevin Durant is a more efficient scorer. But I think in certain matchups, Kevin Durant does struggle. With Tatum, he can still find a way to impact the game in multiple facets.
Yeah.
So for me, Tatum is at 8. At 7, I have Steph there. You guys have him at 8. I have Steph slotted at 7. I do think the combination of carrying this team plus Steve Kerr kind of having him run all damn game kind of hindered him towards the end of the year. But I think he's still one of the most destructive offensive players in the league. I think he still provides that insane gravity where you still have to put 2 on the ball at always. And, he did struggle. He was up and down this year in terms of just finishing at the rim. He is getting up to that age where he can't get to the rim as much as he wanted to. Like prior, he is 6'3". He is small compared to Kevin Durant, LeBron of that age. But I think Steph's three-point volume and the fact that he's so immensely impactful off ball and that creation off ball as a playmaker is still so high, it's still at that level. The defense is definitely taking a regression, but I think that's more because of fatigue. I think he'll be fine next year, but unfortunately, he probably will burn out again and people would think he's regressed so much. But I still think a championship team, he's still one of the best 7 to 5 guys you want to lead your championship if the team is right. So I have him at 7.
Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of what you just said too. I think people have overblown it. Like, I think they've just immediately forgotten about Steph or written him off because of that 20-game stretch. I don't really understand it. And again, look at the offensive situation that he's dealing with. Like, he is shouldering such an insane load. Wake up, Golden State, because if you guys don't put a team around him, Steph's jumping ship, and I don't blame the freaking guy. He wants to win.
Steph's not leaving, man.
I don't think he's jumping.
Is Steph going to ride it until the wheels fall off? Come on,
unfortunately,
man.
I think so.
I think that's the type of man he is, bro. That's the type of man he is. I hate it
Put
for
some
him.
pieces around him, damn it.
We're trying, bro. We're trying. Well, Lori, I don't know what
not
happened,
dealing pods, not being willing to include pods is crazy.
Lori, we tried with PG. We really did.
Yeah.
Not dealing for pods for Lori was crazy. I don't know what happened there. I got to talk to somebody about that. Like, maybe Mike Dunleavy, me and him got to get in the boxing ring because that's just nuts. I don't know what was that about, but
I agree. He would have been such a perfect fit, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At number 7, I have LeBron here. I've got 2 Lakers side by side. I'll go ahead and spoil it. I have AD above LeBron. I just prefer
AD at 6.
I have AD at 6.
High.
Logan's always been an AD guy, and I respect it.
I thought you wouldn't have him on your list. I'll be honest.
I like AD a lot. I mean, the defensive floor consistently that he gives you every single night, he is so disruptive. The jumper wanes and waxes, but I was really encouraged by this little playoff run that we got from AD. And I know it was against Jokic. This was a pretty apathetic defensive performance from Jokic. And so I do want to see AD against better defensive competition. But again, defensive floor, he's such a disruptor. I still think the best defender on planet Earth for the time being. Wemby is coming for that throne rapidly. But AD can still exert his will on a lot of centers. And when he wants to, I really hope that this was the turning point. This little first-round playoff series we saw from AD, I hope it's the turning point from him where he's more consistent offensively and can shoulder some of that burden. But the reason I prefer him to LeBron is just the physical exertion that AD can give me tonight. I know that both of these guys take their time off. I just prefer that AD, again, what he gives me, the floor defensively, and then I just know that he can give me that kind of effort consistently night to night in a way that LeBron can't. If we're just talking about ability and a guy that I want for one game, damn, man. I mean, LeBron's got a conversation with anybody on this list, but I know that LeBron's
Mhm.
gonna have to take his nights off just because he's freaking 40, man. You saw the gray in his beard. Like he's just getting up there in age, man.
Yeah. I'll give my 7 and 6 together because this is a crazy tough debate. And Logan and I had this one a few weeks ago, and I'm going to stick with my take on this, even though it was already like the closest call of my life. And now in the Olympics, one of these dudes played way better than the other. And so that could have moved me. But I do feel like the Olympics are very different than NBA basketball. And so much of it is about fit within the roster. I have LeBron at 7. I have Jason Tatum at 6. And Tatum's tough, man, because the scoring inconsistency has been something in the past that has made me more inclined to put him in that 9-10 range than that 6-7 range. And LeBron, I just know night in, night out is going to produce offensively. He is going to rack up his efficient 25 a night. He's going to 8 assists a night, and he's going to have such a versatile offensive impact, right? I mean, he can do it running that side pick and roll. He can do it as a shooter. He can do it attacking mismatches out of the post. He's still up there for the best transition scorer in the planet. Like that is something I can bank on night after night after night. Whereas Jason Tatum, I know, might still have one of those 5 for 16 games where he's relying on the pull-up threes and they just aren't falling. LeBron is the better, more consistent offensive player, but Tatum is the most versatile all-around player in basketball to me. And you mentioned that all-around impact being B+ at everything. I don't know that we've ever felt that more than we did in this past title run. Even when he was at his absolute worst as a shooter, he was the most impactful Celtic defensively. I don't think he gets enough credit still to this day for how he changed that series defensively, being able to guard the centers and switch everything, taking away all of the easy lobs that were being manufactured for those bigs, like trusting that he can hold his own on the glass as one of the best rebounders in basketball, period. He's consistently above 10 a game in the playoffs. And then offensively, he's your point guard. He's constantly finding mismatches, getting downhill, and creating advantages and creating open shots for his teammates with the drive and kick game. Like, to be an elite center defensively and an elite point guard offensively in a series is crazy. It's something that we've only seen a couple times in history, like that sort of versatility. And what still makes me give him the edge over LeBron is that although his scoring inconsistency is something that we can't deny, we can't just say, oh, that was just this run. This run was a bad version of it, but that's always been a gripe with Tatum, right? In the playoffs, the scoring efficiency isn't great, and 1 in every 3 nights, he lays a clunker. But this was kind of the worst case scenario. And when I think about how impactful he was in this run, knowing that he can impact every facet of the game every night in a way that, Logan, you mentioned, like, 39-year-old LeBron just can't physically impose himself in every game like that. When I think about if Jason Tatum did have just a normal 3-point shooting run from him, I do think that he would be clear of LeBron in terms of his impact, his ability to be your number one night after night on both sides of the ball. And that's why I lean him. In a single game, I might still take LeBron because I know that LeBron is going to produce offensively. But over the course of a run, Tatum can exert himself, and that all-around impact really is pretty crazy. And like compared to an AD, I just know that Tatum can produce more as an offensive number one. He has the playmaking ceiling that an AD doesn't.
I'm glad you mentioned the floor. Like this does feel like the absolute. I mean,
Yeah.
this is like the basement for Jason Tatum, right? I don't think it can get any worse.
And he can switch 1 through 5, and he was insane rebounding, and he was the best we've ever seen him as a playmaker.
And not that long ago, I mean, Tatum, that's what's so weird is, I mean, not that long ago, Tatum was putting up 50 pieces and, sending people home. Like that is also a part of his playoff resume.
You got to lock in. So my 6 and 5, my number 6 is LeBron. I'm still really high on his ability to control the games. He's still the smartest player in basketball. I'm still really high on his ability to just control a game from quarter 1 to quarter 4, minute 1 to minute 48. Just defensively, he has that ability, like you mentioned, at times to lock in. And you saw it in the Olympics, being able to guard Joker in stretches, being the playmaker for them. Like LeBron will do whatever it takes to win, and the team construction is not the best. He does have another top 10 player, in my opinion, on the roster. Doesn't have the same type of role players, but these two guys, man, especially with LeBron, when he's locked in 7-game series, Logan, you mentioned it. There's not many dudes I'd pick over LeBron fully healthy. At number 5 for me, I have SGA. This is where I slot him right in there. I love SGA's game. you mentioned that you don't think SGA can get better than this. If that 3-ball gets consistent, it's over. Like, it's over and done with. But I think SGA's in between game, the slithery moves he has in the paint, his quickness, his agility, his touch around the rim, his footwork is just Kobe-esque like it's so beautiful and perfect. Like, SGA is truly 101 in the scoring department, just at getting to the rim, the mid-range, and defensively, he's
100%.
really good. He's a great team defender, really good one-on-ball defender. I think SGA is walking into that, top 3, top 4 conversations for me. I just think if he was, unfortunately, he doesn't have the resume to put him over the guy in front of him for me. But I think next year can easily change that conversation. But as of right now, SGA, best player in one of the best teams in the West. I think right now he just has to improve in the advanced reads in the playmaking department, and then keep improving the 3-point shot. But for me, 6 LeBron, 5 SGA.
I'm intrigued. I'm going to assume the gentleman you're alluding to at this next spot is Joel Embiid, and to me,
a good assumption.
To me, resume doesn't really factor in. I did. Now it's a little bit. I guess I don't have the same logical consistency with this because I do have Embiid on the list. I still do have injury concerns about him, and that ultimately is the only reason Embiid isn't going to be higher on my list. He's 5 for me, so I flop here. I have SGA at 4. There is a consistency. I know SGA is going to be available. He's going to be damn good in every single game that he plays in, and I just don't have to question it. I even think that SGA could climb higher. I think he could get to top 3. I think that's a real ring that SGA could be chasing this next season. Again, with his two-way value, if that 3-ball comes along, if he even weaponizes his game more as a playmaker. And and when Embiid's healthy, he's great. The two-way value, how he can protect the rim, how dominant he can be as an offensive force. But there's 2 things limiting him. One, it's the injury. That's the major thing. But 2 is just also his style of play, and I harp on this. I don't know how you feel about him, Riv. I think Embiid is one of the least aesthetically pleasing players to watch because of the foul baiting, because of the grifting. I don't like that aspect of his game, and I know people get on SGA for that. I think 90% of SGA's fouls come naturally, but those are the 2 things holding Embiid back from being higher on my list. But it's majority the injury concerns, just with his sordid history there.
Yeah. So I have SGA at 5 and Embiid at 4. SGA is the epitome of consistency, especially as a scorer. I mean, Riv, you hit on it. The number of counters, the footwork, the balance. He's either going to get to the rim. He was the leading restricted area scorer among all guards, or he is going to put on this ridiculous display from the mid-range, from, inside the paint, outside the restricted area. He was like the leading mid-range scorer in basketball, or very close to it this year. It's an insane ability that he has to create buckets for himself, one-on-one, out of pick and roll, in transition. He's great. The reason that I have Embiid over him, even though I think that SGA is so easy to bank on in the playoffs, because you can't take away that intermediate shot making, right? It is so reliable when you are just money from that range, is the ceiling that Joel Embiid can have. If we see regular season offensive Joel Embiid, right, who can give you an efficient 35 a night, the absurd amounts of attention that he demands, if the shot making does translate over a run, paired with the fact that he is still one of the best defensive anchors in basketball, that's where I just think his physical advantages, being too big and too skilled for everyone, and being one of the best rim protectors in basketball, we haven't seen it translate in the same way to the playoffs, and I've been very critical of him for that. However, this run, when, by the way, he was just coming off a torn meniscus and clearly wasn't totally right, was the best he's played in the playoffs. And most importantly, the jump shot actually held up, even though it didn't always seem like he was getting the same lift, and it was inconsistent, but it held up more so. I still didn't think he played up to his regular season level, and I thought this playoff run was a mixed bag, but that ceiling to me is higher than SGA's because of the potential for just complete two-way dominance. So it's really close for me between these 2, but I also think the playmaking growth with SGA is an important point that you hit on, Riv. If he excels more consistently as a playmaker, then I would take him over Embiid, because I do think his offensive game is more consistent, but he's not quite at the level there that I would need him to be at to have him as my number 4, even though these 2 are very, very close for me.
Yeah, Logan, I didn't mean because Embiid's playoff resume stinks. So I didn't mean resume per
No, I
se.
assume you meant with like the MVP, right? Or
No, I just wanted SGA. Like, okay, so like prior to this year, the situation when SGA was, we have to see the game translate into the playoffs, right? When he played against the Pelicans, I thought it was like a C plus. He didn't really need to do too much. They were the clear better team. You know, they didn't have Zion. He didn't, and Herb Jones does provide a little bit of a challenge but it wasn't much he needed to do to show. Like nothing in that series was gonna change my mind or show me anything. Against Dallas, he was amazing.
He was
amazing. As a scorer, he was amazing. The problem in Dallas was more of his reads against a zone, against the second defensive backbone in the lineups. Like defensively, his advanced reach, his playmaking was the issue for me in that series. It wasn't bad. It just needed to be better. As opposed to Joel Embiid, I just watched him dominate the Knicks defense. That was probably top 8 all year, paired with Mitch, Isaiah Hartenstein. They had OG. They had Dante DiVincenzo. They had Josh Hart. And Joel Embiid, to me, he put on an absolute freaking Optimus Prime like performance in Transformers. He was just destroying them, and that was with like one eye and like little to no energy in the body. Like plus his team, when he get off the floor, they were like a minus 2,000 or something. Like they were just bad. So like, and I think, spoiler alert, Embiid is my fourth guy. Just as a scorer, I think Embiid's the best scorer in the league right now. I just think with his ability to post you up, face up, he has the mid range. I think right at this point between him and the Joker, I think he's a better three-point shooter. I think the Joker's jump shot, the three-point shooting is a little bit lost right now. Face-up game, I think I'd give it to Embiid. He has that in his bag from the mid-range, at the free throw line, at the elbow. He can get into the post. He can work his way to the free throw line. Like there's just really nothing he cannot do offensively. His handle is solid for a big man. Then he's a great rebounder. He's a great rim protector. He is a little bit sluggish in the pick and roll defense. He does play drop. That does give him a little bit of a disadvantage. And I know playoffs are the most important thing, but regular season, 82 games, Embiid has looked like over the past 3 seasons the best player in the league. Spoiler alert, my next 3 guys are pretty obviously Giannis, Luka, and the best player in the world, the Joker. But I think Embiid and SGA, I do feel like at the end of the year, they could flip spots, but I think those are the 2 guys. Like Embiid, he's earned that right to be 4, in my opinion, because even if he's not healthy, he's given us 3 back-to-back MVP-like seasons.
Yeah, I guess that's my thing, is that we're still working in theoreticals with Embiid in the playoffs, and I just know SGA to me is such a sure thing. And yeah, I don't know. I need to see it from Embiid, man. And I'm encouraged. Like the fact that I'm glad you mentioned how banged up he was in these playoffs. The dude's functioning at 60 to 70%, and he gives you a 50 burger. Who the hell does that? I mean, nobody. I don't know if anybody at the league at 60 to 70% health could do that. I just need to see it, man. I got to see it with my own eyes. He's got to be healthy going into a playoff run. He's got to do it. He's got to get to the conference finals, man. I need to see a run or something, man. I just need to see it materialize. Once I do, I think he's got to be in the top 5. I'm just not ready to move him any higher until I see that kind of run materialize.
I think another thing for Embiid is being more consistent as a playmaker, because I thought that he improved there this past year, but I still thought there was that one game where he had 9 or 10 turnovers in the Knicks series, and he can still struggle with that, and he can still be a ball stopper, which isn't as much of a problem when he's by far their best offensive player. But the reason that I lean Jokic as the best scorer in the world, not just best player, is because I do think he's the better post player. And the reason for that is just his pure shot making is so absurdly consistent when you're talking about that post area. Like the fact that he literally shoots 65% on hook shots and he shoots close to 70% on floaters. Like that's insane. That's layup efficiency. And he gets that in any matchup one-on-one in the league whenever he wants it. Embiid can't get that. Embiid's efficiency is boosted by getting to the line, which in the playoffs, he hasn't gotten quite the same whistle. He hasn't gotten to the line at quite the same rate, and his shot making has failed him. So it's like last 5 years in the playoffs, Jokic gives you better than 28 a night on 62% true shooting. Embiid in that stretch is under 27 a night, 59% true shooting. Like Jokic has consistently been the playoff scorer, the better playoff scorer. The one thing that you mentioned, Riv, that is worth watching is like Jokic's three ball was way off in the playoffs. It was way off in the Olympics. It's not a big enough sample size for me to be like panicking about it, but it is worth noting because if he can't reliably knock down those pick and pop threes, then that makes him a less complete scorer for sure. So I'll give my number 3. I have Luka, and I think that because he is so consistently great offensively, that puts him above Embiid versus SGA. SGA is the more consistent scorer, but Luka's playmaking ceiling is just absurd. And Luka really improved as a three-point shooter this past year. And when those shots are just raining down, like at the volume he can create those, there is more of a ceiling for him versus an SGA. So that's what it comes down to. SGA is the more complete player, but Luka's ceiling is just absolutely unfathomable as a scorer and playmaker. And same goes for him as an advantage versus Embiid, who just hasn't translated quite as well to that postseason. But the top 2 guys, I just think don't necessarily have some of Luka's flaws. I think that Luka can be really, really ugly defensively. I thought that the first 3 games of the finals were like as horrible a defensive effort as we've ever seen from a superstar player. And I do think that there is a downside where he is so ball dominant. He's not as complete an offensive player as Jokic in terms of Jokic always bringing his screening value, always bringing his offensive rebounding value, bringing off-ball movement, making such quick decisions, spotting cutters. Luka, you very much live with and die with, and the shot quality that he creates possession to possession to me isn't as high as Jokic's. So the volume can be overwhelming and can make people say, oh my God, Luka's the best player on the planet. But Jokic is creating a higher shot quality, and that's why I think he's pretty easily the best offensive player and better than Luka, who I have at number 3.
Okay. Who do I have at 3? Oh, I have Giannis at 3. The conversation I think is going to be Giannis versus Luka for the next year or two. I think the Joker has not an insane stranglehold on one, but I think he has a pretty good grip right now on number 1. Just won his 3rd MVP. In 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, has a ring in those last 3 years. So he's pretty much, and he just took USA down to the wire. As for Luka versus Giannis, I do agree with you. I think it gets really ugly defensively. But I feel like, Carson, I can say that vice versa with Giannis's offense at times. I feel like offensively, as a jump shooter, it can get really, really ugly, especially if he's playing a team that can really defend him well. Like, example, Miami Heat, who have defended him well over the past couple seasons. Unfortunately, he has been dealing with some injuries, so he hasn't been able to make that complete, rise to the playoffs. Last time we seen him, he only played 3 games, but Milwaukee did not win a single game when he played against that Miami Heat team. He played well, but there was times in that fourth quarter, the playmaking was odds. He was throwing a lot of turnovers, kind of shying away from that jumper, didn't have confidence in it, was struggling at the line. As opposed to Luka, I think for like him being that offensively gifted and him having that playmaking wizardry, it's hard for me to say like somebody who's struggling in the jump shot department is better than him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Giannis,
I get it.
The limitation being the most important part of basketball right now. As far as Luka, defense is important. I would never say it's not. But as a playmaker, he's an A+. Jump shooter, A+. He even has the post up, the face up, the mid-range game. He can get to his spots. He literally can dominate any defender 1 through 4. And then, like, as a finisher, he's one of the best in the league. So that's why I have Giannis at 3, the Luka at 2nd, because I just feel like Giannis's jump shooting failures, I think I look at that a little bit as a more of a concern, especially with his age. The athleticism won't be there always, and he's been dealing with a couple of injuries. It hasn't given me any feel-good moments because he hasn't really improved as a jump shooter like you wanted him to improve over the last couple of years. So that's why I have Giannis at 3. I still think he's one of the best two-way players in the league. I think his defense is great. As a finisher in transition at the rim, amazing. But I have Luka over him because I just think the offensive engine he is just above and beyond.
Yeah, I think this logic is solid, and I don't really care. Anybody, if you want to order these top 3 guys, I think you can make an argument for anybody. These are the 3 best players in basketball, and I think it's concrete. I do have Giannis at 2. I have Luka at 3. It's the two-way impact, and I understand you, Riv. You guys remember that, I think it was against Miami. late game scenario, and Giannis literally looks like he doesn't want to touch the ball. That's the one stain that, that's the one thing that Giannis has that none of these other guys do. It's in a late game scenario. It's like, damn, man, I can't trust you to initiate from the perimeter. We need a high end creator to go and manufacture a bucket. Like, that's a legitimate concern, and I understand that. The reason that I give Giannis the edge is that you have to have a Giannis stopper. You have to commit your entire defensive game plan to stopping him. And the thing that solidifies Giannis over Luka for me, it is a little bit about the two-way impact. It's Giannis's growth as a playmaker, and it really pains me. I'll see people in our chat sometimes, Giannis is a bad playmaker. Giannis is not on Jokic's or Luka's level as a playmaker.
Well, hold on, he's not.
Well, he's not. He's not on this kind of
level. You
don't
need to be. You know, yeah.
Yeah. But to be fair, basically nobody is.
Nobody is. Yeah, it's Luka, it's Jokic, and I think it's like LeBron when we're talking about
bro. Show some respect.
Oh, all time.
Passers and playmakers. But when people in our chat say that Giannis isn't a playmaker whatsoever, I just know that you don't watch the games, and it pains me to hear people say that because Giannis is a really good passer. Like some of the kickouts he's making at the rim where he's drawing 3 or 4 guys, it's unreal. And we talk about the gravity that Steph has on the exterior. You know, Giannis has that on the interior, dude. And that to me is where I'm okay with having Giannis this high, because I think he has legitimately gotten better at that part of his game. And it's something that has expanded his game. And also, I think that people tend to forget, you know, if we're dropping Giannis out of these conversations, or if you think there's a real gap, Giannis just hasn't been healthy. And again, maybe that's not consistent with what I've said about Embiid or Kawhi. It's just not as big a concern with me as Giannis it is with those guys. But he has been hurt, and we need to see Giannis healthy again, man, because if there's another season where Giannis misses out on the postseason party, then we might need to have some tough conversations about him. But like I said, man, I'm okay with you ordering this list any way you have. I think these are the 3 best guys in basketball. But to me, Joker's number 1, man. I think he has the best combination of scoring and playmaking punch in the league. And I think he's gotten better as a defender. And when Jokic has wanted to be engaged defensively, he's been okay there.
I used to think, and call me crazy, I used to think the Joker had a sizable gap against Giannis.
I thought it was huge. And
I thought because the playmaking was so massive and the repertoire of offensive scoring that he had over Giannis. Giannis is an inside threat, inside demon. But just at the time, the Joker had the 3-ball. Now, if the 3-ball starts falling off from the Joker, you start to see that gap between him and the next 2 best guys kind of go down, because that was really the game changer. Like, Joker can hit the 3-ball. He has a little push floater. He has the mid-range. He's a post-up machine. And on top of that, he's probably the best playmaker in basketball. Now it's like, all right, you don't have the 3-ball. It kind of makes you a little bit more reliant on inside paint work, you know, but I think it will come back this year for sure.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, over the course of his playoff career, he's still almost a 40% 3-point shooter. And what's crazy is, like, that's the only thing that wasn't going for him, even in that crazy tough Minnesota matchup. Like, I mean, he still played 3 perfect offensive games in a row. Games 3 through 5 were like 3 consecutive offensive masterpieces. But I'm with you. That's the one thing to monitor with Jokic. The reason that I have Giannis above Luka, and it's very close, is I still think that Luka has more flaws as like this offensive savant compared to Jokic. I think there's a gap. I think Luka is a top 10 to 15 offensive player ever. I think Jokic, I mean, the 2023 playoff run was the best offensively that we've ever seen, in my opinion, from an individual player. And so with Luka, there is still a dynamic of hyper ball dominance, of like when you take him off the floor and you have Kyrie out there, like Kyrie can replicate some of that value of just being this on-ball shot maker, playmaker. The Mavs offense really performs quite similarly if both those dudes are on the floor, or if either one of them is on the floor without the other, whereas Jokic, like, you see this massive, massive gap. And that's kind of the thing with Luka. The jump shot can be inconsistent. Even though it got better this year, it was very inconsistent in the playoffs, and that could kind of tank his efficiency. He finished under 56% true shooting in the playoffs, which is, you know, a couple points below league average. And he's also not getting to the rim at the same rate that he used to. So he's increasingly dependent on those shots. Like 2020 Luka, his first superstar season, 26% of his shots are coming at the rim. Now you look at this year's playoff run, and that number is at like 9%, I think. And so that also,
I
when
mean,
he's not hitting the paint, like he can't have his maximum impact as a playmaker. And it
do
was
you
way
chalk that
lower in
up
the
to
it was way
the
lower in the
injuries at
regular
all?
season too. It's way lower in the regular season. He's just changed his play style. I don't think the injury helped, but he wasn't getting to the rim before he tweaked his knee. Like at the very start of that Clippers series, it was super reliant on the jumper, and the jumper was way off at that point. So that's where I think Luka's just flawed enough offensively for me to prefer Giannis as an overall basketball player. The fact that he does give you 30, 11, and 6 on like 65% true shooting while being a great defensive player. I think that the flaw with his inability to execute and clutch offense, his lack of skill there, is real. And that's why he can't be number one to me. But I also think we talk about that Heat game and what a disaster it was. And sometimes, even though that fourth quarter was awful, nobody ever seems to remember that like Giannis had 38 and 20 in that game still. You know, like there is an ability for him to just physically overwhelm you and still produce at such a high clip. And the playmaking has improved enough to where I think he just narrowly has the edge over Luka to me. If Luka, I mean, even takes another level up as a jump shooter, if he does start getting to the rim a little bit more again, then I think he would be my number 2.
Okay, I like that. So I like that our list is very. We seemingly have the same guys, just a bit of a shuffle in
Yeah.
list, shuffle in order. I think who if you guys had a name outside of Anthony Edwards, because obviously I think that's the next big name that everybody
Yeah.
thinks is going to get in here. Who do you think is another guy, a name or two, that can jump into this top 10 list?
I think
Outside of Victor, too. Obviously, that's another one.
Yeah,
Right.
Victor, I think, is probably the no-brainer. I would say Haliburton, I think, has an opportunity. He's always going to be a little bit deficient defensively. But I mean, I think he's going to lead out such great team offense that he has an argument. The guy I'm picking on is probably Donovan Mitchell, man. I think Mitchell.
We're back, Logan. We're back.
I think Mitchell with a really good playoff run with, and again, what I hate about the Mitchell book conversations is I just don't think Mitchell has. You can make the same argument for Ja realistically too. I think there's levels to them as offensive players, but I just don't think Mitchell has really great offensive personnel around him. And when you can pressure the rim like Donovan Mitchell can, same goes for Ja. The way to maximize those guys as offensive engines is to put shooting around them. And I just think Mitchell has such an insane load on his shoulders. Garland was disappointing in the playoffs. Mobley is still really raw offensively. Even when they're at full health, Jared Allen is he's not a real floor spacer. And you see the stretch when all those guys are hurt. You put shooting around Mitchell, and that was a damn good team and a damn good offense. I think if Mitchell has another great year, has a great playoff run to back it up, I think he could make a real case to be on this list.
If we're taking out Ant, and if we're taking out Wemby, and if we're not counting Kawhi because of health stuff, and I do think he's different than anybody else in terms of health because it's 4 straight years that he hasn't been available when it matters most.
Unfortunately.
Sucks. It sucks because he's amazing when he's on the floor. To me, it's Book. I do still prefer Book to Mitchell, and I think that Mitchell, his ability to just be that on-ball floor raiser probably surpasses Book's, but I think that Book's offensive versatility and malleability is just incredible. And I think he's a really underrated basketball player right now. And I was glad to see him show out in the Olympics like he did, because he's one of the few best pure shot makers on the planet. He has the size at 6'6" to make those shots with a serious level of contest. He gets to the line at a good clip. He's a legitimately good playmaker and a very solid defender. Like when he locks in, he is a very, very solid defensive player. And even without like this real rim pressure, which I think overall for the Suns, the fact that none of their guys are real rim pressures or volume 3-point shooters, that's an issue in totality. But just like individually, Book is still able to score so efficiently. I mean, 2023, 11 games, he gave you 33 and 7 on 69% true shooting. It's one of the best offensive postseason runs that we've seen over a couple rounds. And he is such an insane shot maker that although that isn't replicable year to year, like something just short of that to me is consistent. And he does scale better, fit better with other high-end talent to me than Mitchell. So he'd be the guy. I think he's already knocking on the door of these conversations. And I think that him and KD are honestly like neck and neck as the Suns' best player.
Okay. I think I'm gonna take a different approach. I'm gonna go young man route. Let me ask you guys a question. That sounds actually crazy.
Crazy ass thing to
let's
say, but
pause. Let's not, let's not do that. How crazy do you guys think if Orlando ends up in the ECF? Like, what are the chances?
Man, I think you'd have to see like I like some of the moves they made. I like getting KCP. That helps them. I just think we'd have to see a major leap from Paolo and Franz consistency wise. Like
yeah,
Paolo's jumper. Now I'm big on Paolo. I think Paolo's going to be an elite jump shooter one day, man. The thing looks pure. I like the looks he gets to. He seems confident taking them. He's got every jumper in his bag. I also think that involves him getting downhill more, getting to the rim more consistently, weaponizing that physicality, getting easy looks for himself. And then I think Franz also has to just be more consistent offensively. Carson, you mentioned that. What was that stat about Franz and him shooting the basketball? If you have that off the top of your head.
He sucks at it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was 28% in the regular season, 26% in the playoffs, and 29% in the Olympics from deep.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I think for me, I'm gonna go Paolo. I think Paolo is maybe not this year. Of course, I'm not thinking this year. That's if he does that, we're fucking here. But I think Paolo's the next guy up, just in terms of just him being that type of power forward that can initiate an offense, can get up in the post with the mid-range. Like his playoff debut was amazing. Like against the Cavaliers, a pretty stout defensive unit, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and he was their lead initiator, their lead scorer, one of their best rebounders, a pretty damn good defender. And that was his rookie playoff debut. He was pretty great. And I think this team is going to hinder on Banchero's rise to superstardom. And I think he has all the tools to do it. I don't know if it'll happen this year, of course, because, like you mentioned, a lot will have to happen. But for me, top 10, I'm going to go with Banchero because, we got LeBron, Steph, KD eventually getting out of here.
Yeah.
Embiid's getting up there with age. Giannis is getting up there with age. So, somebody has to go.
You would take Paolo over Chet?
As a lead initiator, yes.
For
Number
sure.
one on
but
the
as
team.
an overall basketball player,
still
who do you think is higher?
Paolo.
Okay.
I think Chet is more plug and play.
Okay. I think that Chet and SGA are going to be such a perfect complementary duo. Like, I think that Chet in his peak, not necessarily in terms of like the super specifics, but in terms of like the archetype, I think he could be similar to an Anthony Davis, not 2020 AD, where like AD was a top 2 player on the planet, but more like the version of AD that we see now, where it's like really, really good offensive player. You don't want him to be your offensive number 1, but he's an awesome offensive number 2. And then he's one of the 3 best defenders on the planet. Like, I just think Chet is going to be so efficient offensively, so versatile, and game-breaking defensively, where it's like, Paolo, I still need to see the jump shot become more consistent. I love his tools. I do think he's going to be a really good playmaker, but I'm just not sure that he'll be an efficient enough offensive number 1 to offset that Chet is going to be like the perfect offensive number 2 and then a dominant defensive player.
Yeah.
So if we are going a couple years down the line, I would go Chet, but then Paolo would be my next guy.
No, I fully respect that because I think Chet is on his way to that. I think Banchero is going to take some time, especially with the lack of spacing he has. So it's a little bit more to deal with. I'm not even mad at that answer. I think it's just like you mentioned. Can that jumper be consistent? Can he not fall in love with it and be more versatile and be more, like Logan keeps mentioning, cerebral with his approach, his attack to the game? If he can do that, sky's the limit for sure. But yeah, I'm with that. Chet is definitely there for sure.
Yeah, Paolo doesn't belong in Scotty conversations, which some people try to put him in.
Scotty belongs in Mikal Bridges conversations.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. But Carson, I know you said you had dinner with your dad, but do you have time for some trivia?
Yeah. Well, how quick?
Oh, let's do it. We'll do one.
Let's do what you got. We'll do it quick.
Oh, fucking Carson.
I don't take long to come up with answers.
You're right. All right. So look, we're doing 1-on-1, mano. Carson Bieber versus Mr. Logan. I'm not even gonna say your last name. You don't need that. You get the Mr.
That's classic.
We're going. You get 3 strikes.
All right.
Top 25 players in NBA history with the most assists all time.
Carson's gonna cook my shit, bro.
Lock
I
in,
love it.
Logan. Carson, start it off, man.
Let's go with John Stockton.
John Stockton is sitting at nice and pretty number 1.
Mark
Logan.
Jackson.
Who?
Mark Jackson.
Way to get the tough ones out. He's sitting at
Love
number
it.
6.
Let's get Magic.
Light one, number 7.
LeBron.
Get him out. They have him in all caps. I don't know why. Number 4, though.
Let's get Steve Nash.
Oh, the great legendary Steve Nash sitting at number 5.
Chris Paul.
Let's get Chris Paul out the way. He is sitting pretty at number 3 in all caps. Oh, these are the guys that are still playing. I think that's why
That makes sense.
Okay.
Jason Kidd.
Jason Kidd sitting beautifully at number 2.
Rondo. Is he here?
Rondo is sitting pretty at number 15. Damn, Rondo, shout out to you.
Shout out to Rondo for real, dude. I believe. Oh, Gary Payton. Let's get him.
Gary Payton, yep, sitting at number 11.
Damn, man. I'm not 100% sure about this one. Bob Cousy.
Bob
Yeah,
Cousy
he'll
is
be
22.
there.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
Respect yourself, Logan.
Never doubt yourself, Logan. Okay. I don't really want to get that guy because of lack of longevity. I think that Scotty is somewhere in the top 25.
Scotty who?
Pippen.
You are sitting at a wrong answer, buddy. You are
Really?
strike one. Yeah, Scotty is not in the top 25.
The
Do you
big
know
O.
what number he is?
Oscar
Oh,
Robertson.
that's an obvious one.
Oscar Robertson is definitely sitting pretty at number 8.
Okay.
He's not top. I only have the top 25. I couldn't
All
even
right.
tell you the number.
Okay. I feel like I should be more locked in on point guards.
I feel like that'd be the correct answer.
Let's get at the same time. I don't know why I'm gonna get this cheeky with it. Let's get Reggie Theus.
I don't know why you're getting cheeky at all. That's strike number 2.
No way, he's not on there.
No, I don't know. Reggie,
to
who is
go.
that? Who is that?
Played for the Bulls and the Kings in the 80s. He was an empty numbers guy.
Not ideal. Not here.
Not ideal. Damn.
What about I mean he
I have an obvious one. I don't know what I'm doing.
You're
Damn,
trolling.
dude. I don't think this is right. I was gonna guess Wilt, bro. Wilt's not here, is he? I mean, he
Wilt
played
who?
forever.
Will
Chamberlain.
too?
No,
One
Wilt's
and
not
only.
up here, bro.
Damn, bro.
Okay, Tim Hardaway is for sure here.
Yes, he's sitting at number 19.
Oh,
Can we
is-
think of the easy ones?
Oh, James Harden.
Yeah.
James Harden. Is
Yes,
he here?
number 14. You guys are not looking like ball knowers.
Yeah, bro, we're being ridiculous. Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook sitting pretty
Come
at
on
number
now.
9.
Steph Curry.
You fucked
Ooh,
up.
I don't know about that one. Yeah.
You fucked up. You fucked up.
Wow, really?
Assist?
Let-
Nah, he's like a 6 per game type of dude.
Let me get my boy
Yeah.
Rod Strickland.
Oh, yeah. You cook
Assist
up.
leader
Number
Rod
13.
Strickland. Yeah, come on. What have I
Is
been
Andre
doing?
Miller here?
That's
Cook.
for
Number
sure
12.
gonna be here. Isaiah Thomas, Zeke.
Which, okay. I like that
Yeah,
you
yeah, the
made it clear.
original.
Number
The
10.
original. So
is
I have
is
2
Larry
strikes.
here? Is Larry here?
You both have 2 strikes. Well, now he has 3. 'cause
Now he has 3. So do I win by default? Do I have to get another one? I haven't said we haven't said Mo Cheeks, who is like top 15. I know that.
He's
so I want
16.
to.
Let me
Oh,
make
no,
this
close
clear.
enough.
I don't do win by default. You have to
Oh, I have to finish out the list now. Or
not
else we
finish
both.
out the list. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah, I
Look,
gotta.
Larry Bird.
I gotta perform.
You gotta like it's like a if he now that you were last, you gotta get like 2 right just to feel like you won by.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
fair. I've been thinking about this dude from the start, and he
Norm
makes me a
Van
little
Lier.
nervous because of longevity. But I know that the peak is there. Is Darren Williams on this list?
Really?
Oh, let's go.
Wow.
Sitting at 24.
Give me that.
Wow.
He
Give me
is
that.
sitting at 24.
Is Tony Parker's not on
I
the
bet
list,
he.
is
I think he
So-
is. I think he is.
I'm gonna tell you the whole list right now. So Carson, you take the first round. Light
Give me
work.
that.
So the top 25 leaders in assists. This is all-time assist. John Stockton, Jason Kidd, Chris Paul, LeBron James, Steve Nash, Mark Jackson, Magic Johnson, Oscar Robertson, Russell Westbrook, Isaiah Thomas, Gary Payton, Andre Miller, Rod Strickland, James Harden, Rajon Rondo, Mo Cheeks, Lenny Wilkins, Terry Porter, Tim Hardaway, Tony Parker, Kyle Lowry,
I was thinking.
Wow.
I was thinking
Bob
Lowry.
Cousy,
Longevity.
Darren Williams, and Muggsy Bogues.
Muggsy?
At 20.
Muggsy.
Yes.
Muggsy popped into my brain, but I was like, dude, that's got to
time.
be a dumb answer, bro.
Played a long time. I don't know why I went Reggie Theus and Scotty so early, but I feel like they're not that far off. But I went them before Big O, which was
you went them before Tony Parker and Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, but Tony Parker, I don't think of as a great. He has the longevity, but yeah, Lowry has crazy longevity. That one should have been.
Shifting over to my next one. This next one is going to be kind of the same vibe, but this has a lot more names that y'all should know. All time, give me the top 25 players in all-time steals in NBA history. Carson, you won first. Start it off.
John Stockton, baby.
Hitting that number one yet again.
Alvin Robertson.
There we go. Number 11. I like that pull.
See, I respect Logan going for some of these early. However, I'm just going to take the layup. CP3.
CP3, number 3. Still active.
Scotty.
Still active.
Scotty, number 7.
Jason Kidd.
Jason Kidd, number 2.
LeBron,
number 8. Still active.
Gary Payton.
Gary Payton sitting at number 5.
Jordan.
Michael Jordan, number 4.
Tim Hardaway.
Strike one.
No way.
Yes, way. Strike one.
God.
Is Hakeem here?
Hakeem should be at number 10.
That's a good one. I don't want to mess this up again, but I feel like Magic is probably here because his steals per game was pretty crazy.
Number 23.
All right, there we go.
This is a weird. I'm not 100% sure about this one. Is Kevin Garnett here?
Kevin Garnett is 100%.
Like
it's the defense. Number 18.
Let's go with Kobe. Same era.
Kobe, number 16.
All right, I'm gonna go with is David Robinson here?
I don't think
one, my brother.
Here. I don't think he'll be here. I'm kind of stuck between two guys of this same era.
Pause.
Let's go with Russ.
Russell Westbrook, 19, still active.
Go. Did you already say Chris Paul?
Yes, he did. That's a great question. Rondo sitting nice and pretty at not on the list.
Damn.
I don't think he played long enough for steals.
Probably.
Oh, Mookie Blaylock.
Oh my God, fucking Cook.
Steals king. Steals king of the 90s.
When did they start tracking steals?
1973-74.
How do you know that off the top?
Because you look at enough player pages and then you see, that's where the steals start.
Yeah, I was looking at Pete Maverick's stats one day randomly. I'm like, where the hell is everything else?
Exactly, bro. Where are the turnovers? Where are the steals? Where are the blocks? There's another one who I know is top 10 who I don't know why I haven't guessed.
There's a guy whose name is not his original name on the list. I just want to point that out. You have to get his new name correct.
Ron Artest.
Oh, you didn't get his new name.
What did I just
Meta World Peace, man.
Yes, man. Logan, because you're my guy. I'm gonna let you pass. You have to follow instructions. I just said
that was crazy after he said the exact instructions.
It's the panda's friend, bro.
I think his name is it not like Meta Sandiford Artest now? Technically, he's changed it like 4 times. He went to Meta World Peace.
It's Meta World Peace when he last retired.
Okay. So well, the dude who I know is top 10, who I didn't guess for assists either. Mo Cheeks. Mo Cheeks is for sure top 10.
He's number 6.
All right, man. This is a shot in the dark. Is Andre Kirilenko here?
Hell no. You got 2 strikes, brother.
Per game, he
would. Per game.
Damn.
Per game, he would.
There's one name up here that I'm shocked.
Is it
what about Isaiah Thomas for this list?
He's up here, 17.
Let's go.
Logan, you got 2 strikes, brother. You're down 1, man.
Damn, is Tony Parker on this list?
No.
I just don't understand. I just can't understand why.
Wait, who is the name?
No, Tony Parker is not on the list, bro.
There's an obvious name that we haven't said.
Obvious in steals, yes. And there's like a few not really obvious in steals, and there's one obvious. Yes.
We said MJ, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we got MJ. I don't know, Clyde.
Yeah, Clyde I think is up here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clyde is sitting pretty at number 9.
Wait, did Logan strike out?
Oh, no, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay, all right. We're just doing it for the thrill. Oh, AI. AI got like
that's the obvious
2.5 steals a year. Yeah.
AI is sitting at.
You know who else is going to be here on longevity? Logan, when you were going through the bigs, there might be 2 here. Are Karl Malone and Patrick Ewing here?
Carmelo is. Patrick Ewing is not.
Okay, he's the
You guys
Knicks
might be able to
all-time
get the rest.
steals
Oh, you
leader
lost, Logan, but you can get the rest of the list here.
for morale.
So you're missing 25, 22,
I mean,
21.
Kawhi doesn't have the longevity, does he?
No,
Hell no, he barely plays.
true.
Yeah, you're
What
missing steals.
sort of players are we looking for?
So I'll give you a hint for two of them, 20 and 21 back to back. They played between, well, one of them played on the Dynasty. The other played on one of the best offenses in the 2000s.
Oh, Sean Marion.
Sitting at number
He was
21.
a stocks machine. The other one played for
Ron
a
Harper?
dynasty. Yeah, that's a good
Ron
guess.
Harper's up here. He's up here. No, he's not. Derek is.
Oh, Mavericks. Wow.
Derek Harper played forever. He's always
because
one
guy played in a dynasty. Two guys. One guy played in a dynasty.
Bruce
Another played in
Bowen?
a big three.
Was Derek Harper not 25 top 25 in assists? I feel like he's top 20. He must have been close.
He probably was close. He wasn't up there. Oh, Ron Harper is up here though.
Oh,
He's
nice.
At 25. He's at 25.
Dynasty.
And the number 22, it was
It's
on
not
a
Michael
big three.
Cooper, even though he was clamps. Number 22 was in a big three.
Yes.
Oh, Paul Pierce for longevity, probably, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Paul Pierce is sitting up here nice and pretty.
And the dynasty. It's not Dennis Johnson, is it?
That's a good guess.
Now, dynasty in
It's
our
not
era.
Larry. Larry's pretty good at. Oh, in
You
our
should know
era.
this, Carson.
It's not Steph.
Iggy? Is it Iggy?
Iggy makes sense.
Iggy's
Wow.
up here. Yeah, Iggy's up here.
I was
Iggy's up
debating guessing Steph earlier because he's got a steals title.
Yeah, he probably not the longevity. Probably
Yeah,
not
but
the
he
longevity.
played 15 years now. He gotta be close.
Yeah, no, you're right. Steals is a hard thing to because you gotta rack them up.
Mm-hmm.
They used to just get way more steals back in the day. Like, dude, it was common for a couple dudes in a season to average 3 steals a game. Now it's like the league leader is SGA with 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't put your hand. They changed the carry rule and stuff. So
Yeah.
That's true. I want to thank you guys for being here, though. Like, I want to thank y'all for showing up. Showing me some love. This is my first. Actually, this is the first 2-hour episode that will ever happen of River Academy ever again. I had a lot of fun. I don't want to say I didn't, but yeah, this is cutting it too much. But I want to thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for showing up. I'm glad we built this newfound friendship that we have in this podcasting YouTube world.
Yeah.
Fuck with my guys, fuck with my white brethren. Tag up what y'all want to tag up, man, because y'all know I don't do that.
Shout out, Riv, man. Thank you for having us on. It was an honor and it was a pleasure. You guys can check us out on YouTube, Nerd Sesh. We have all of our full shows there. We've been doing trivia stuff throughout the summer. We're also doing list stuff. So a lot of the kind of stuff that we did today, we have more of on our channel. And we did have Riv on, and we had Drew on, and we had Dells on with, we did some trivia just a couple of weeks ago. So all of that is on YouTube. You can listen to the podcast wherever you get your audio stuff. And if you want to check out some more of our trivia stuff and some clips from the show, give us a follow on TikTok, Nerd Sesh. We've got all of that good stuff over there as well. But above all else, dial into Riv Academy, because everybody knows that Riv is about to lock in, and it's just going to be dangerous for the rest of the game. My goodness.
I'm back.
So back.
I'm back, man. Thank you guys for being here. Once again, shout out to Nerd Sesh. Go follow them on everything they just told you to follow them on. Shout out to Riv Academy. Go follow Joel Morant Show, Pick a Side, Fantasy Reactions. Just go follow all that. Show love. Thank y'all for being here, and have a great Sunday night, man.